The Safest Harbor, River City Sweethearts, written by Susan Hatler, narrated by Martha Lee.
Chapter 1. Growing up in the war zone my parents called a marriage had me moving out at 18, majoring in psychology. Then I earned a master's degree in marriage and family counseling. I wanted to help couples communicate effectively to save kids from existing in the chaos that had been my childhood. And I had, especially when I moved on to private practice. My life was the epitome of a woman's dream: career, relationship, peace. 4 months ago, I learned it was all a sham. I'd been a dirty mistress and hadn't even known it. I'd thought I was low maintenance, the kind of girl who gave her guy space. But I'd been nothing but a snack to Jake, a candy bar. Turned out the real meal was his wife. I found out when I saw them together at the Sacramento Community Theater. Watching The Nutcracker wasn't nearly as enjoyable with the backs of my boyfriends and his wife's heads in my view. Regular people discovering their boyfriend was married would have been all sorts of horrible, but as a family therapist who evaluates people for a living, Jake's duplicity caused me an epic degree of cataclysm. I mean, how could my judgment help people if someone I'd considered perfect, meaning he'd seemed kind, intelligent, left the toilet seat down, those kinds of things, had really been a two-timing troll? That's why I'd taken a sabbatical from my career. Not because my failed relationship devastated me too much to make it to the office. A month of crying had cleansed that scumball from my system. But because if I couldn't evaluate well in my own life, I didn't want to mess up someone else's. Unfortunately, after 2 months off work, my savings account had taken a serious hit. I had to bring in some income again, pronto. As a homeowner, my bank kind of expected me to do things like pay the mortgage. Sigh. I needed to find a job, but one that didn't require decision-making since my personal judgment was clearly off. Maybe I should become a park ranger. I adjusted my sunglasses and gazed out at Folsom Lake as we motored across it, the wind whipping my red hair away from my face. Right, Kristen. My friend Rachel snorted, then opened the top of her cooler and sifted through the lunch items she'd brought. Because you're so outdoorsy. I could get a pair of boots, some insect repellent. Plus, the trees and bushes wouldn't need me to evaluate them. They just stood there and swayed and stuff. Nature is breathtaking. It makes me feel calm, like now. Rach scoffed. You're sitting in a brand new ski boat holding a glass of Sauvignon Blanc, not exactly roughing it in the wilderness, girl. I pulled down the rim of my straw sun hat. Way to kill my dreams. She blew me a kiss, then rummaged through the cooler again. Do you want turkey or a hummus sandwich? Or would you prefer that we dock so you can shoot your own food? I flinched at the thought. Hummus. It was a sunny Saturday in April, and the lake's blue-gray water resembled glass, its beauty complementing the rolling Sierra foothills surrounding us. My friend Rachel and her boyfriend Noah had invited me on the maiden voyage of Noah's boat. It felt good getting out of the city and out of the house, for that matter. After 2 months on leave, I'd scrubbed every inch of my condo, painted each room, and redecorated 3 times over. My roommate Gina complained that my compulsiveness made it hard for her to chill out on her days off. Apparently lounging on the couch watching her reality TV shows wasn't as relaxing while I was shampooing the carpet. She'd practically begged Rachel to take me out with them. Whatever. Rach held out a sandwich to me. I hope you like lettuce, tomato, and onions. Thanks. I took it, but I didn't have much of an appetite. Too many financial problems looming on the horizon. I'm at the end of my savings, Rach. I need a job, like ASAP. You have a job, a very successful career as a marriage and family counselor, actually. Rach pulled a potato chip out of a bright yellow bag and snapped it between her teeth. Isn't it time to get back to it? I shook my head. Upon discovering I'd been Jake's sleazy side dish, my aptitude for evaluating human behavior had promptly taken a nosedive. My patients deserve better. I've referred them to someone well-respected in the area. She curled her lip. Better than Kristen Moore? Not possible. You wouldn't sing my praises if you'd seen me in action before I went on sabbatical. Picture a desperate couple coming to my office, bearing their souls to me, hoping I can give them guidance to save their marriage. Wonder how many useful suggestions I came up with? 0. Zip. Nada. They stared at me with such trust, and I froze, second-guessing every thought that came to mind. After 4 years thriving in private practice, I'm completely washed up. Had to be a fluke. Rach popped another chip into her mouth. What happened to our know-it-all girl who always gives the right advice? Mostly unsolicited, but still. My stomach roiled at the truth in her words. After 8 months bragging about her perfect boyfriend, she's got a lot of egg to wipe off her face. Her eyes grew serious. Come on, Kristen. It's not your fault Jake's a low-life cheater. It's not my fault, no. I shook my head, knowing that much was true. But I can't get over the fact that I had no inkling of doubt about him. Zilch. I go over it 1,000 times a day, racking my brain for clues I should have picked up on. It was 4 months ago. Yeah, and I still hadn't pieced it together. I got a calendar, wrote out dates and phone conversations, yet I can't figure out how he fooled me so completely. Stop beating yourself up. Gina says the condo looks like the team from that home makeover TV show went through it. That kind of obsessive behavior can't be healthy. My brows came together in mock confusion. So you're saying I shouldn't start on the backyard? She leaned forward, hands on her bare knees. Do you think I knew Jeremy had been getting it on with my hairdresser those weeks before he dumped me? No. He shattered my trust in men. Yes, but you're a customer service rep. I assess human behavior for a living. The ache in my gut escalated. I used to, anyway. I've been where you are, Kristen. I'm not saying it's easy. She glanced behind us at the very muscular and tan boyfriend sitting in the driver's seat, one hand on the wheel. But you have to put yourself out there again. Have you dated anyone since? I unwrapped my sandwich, the roar of the engine dissipating as our speed slowed. No. What about you and Ethan? Upon hearing his name, my heart fluttered. I'd met Ethan last year at a Sacramento Heritage walking tour downtown. We'd bonded while perusing historically significant buildings and homes, dating all the way back to the gold rush. Fascinating stuff. Although I guess not to everyone. Last December, I'd set Ethan up with Gina, and when he'd regaled her with historic tales on a couple of dates, she'd nearly nodded off in her pasta. Ethan and I are just friends. Her eyebrows wiggled up and down. With benefits? Very funny. Although she was joking, my insides warmed at the thought. Ethan had stunning dark features, a solid physique, and he was attentive in everything he did. What sane girl wouldn't find him enthralling? She smirked. You think he's hot, admit it. Even so, I'd rather be stripped naked, tied to the front of this boat, and used as a hood ornament before I put my trust in another man. Rach pulled her sunglasses down her nose and peered up at me. The boat doesn't have a hood. Why do you want me to date Ethan? I'd actually been attracted to Ethan even while dating Jake. Yeah, I'm human, but it's not like I acted on it. And I'd felt guilty over my feelings. Oh, the irony. For all I know, he could be married with 5 kids and on parole for grand larceny. It's not like I have stellar skills when it comes to sensing stuff like that. Her right brow raised. Drama doesn't suit you. Recalling the emotional hurricane I'd been through last December, I bit into my sandwich and seethed. Besides, Ethan doesn't think of me that way. Rach's face fell. What? You guys danced all cuddly and cozy at Ellen's wedding. Exactly. We glided to a stop in the middle of the lake so the engine no longer drowned out what we were saying. I lowered my voice. And did Ethan ask me out? No. She stared at me like I was crazy. Why didn't you ask him out? Because I'd just been screwed over by another man, and I didn't feel like suffering through round 2? In human behavior, people base decisions on which would be greater, the pain or pleasure. In this case, my choice had been a no-brainer. A legitimate concern, she acquiesced. I sighed. Jake used to accuse me of having a crush on Ethan. That's partly why I'd set Ethan up with Gina, to prove I didn't have a thing for him. Even though I'd pushed them together, my gut had twisted at the thought that Ethan might fall for Gina. Things hadn't worked out between them, which had secretly been a relief. Rach tilted her head. I heard you were with Ethan last weekend for some history dealio. A few weeks ago, I ran into him at the farmer's market with a girl named Dana. I remembered the jolt of pain that had struck me when I'd seen Ethan's arm around the beautiful brunette as she'd gazed up at him adoringly. He asked me to go on a historical walk right in front of her, and she didn't flinch. If she's that secure in their relationship, they must be serious. Ethan had dated a few people while I'd been with Jake, but it had never bothered me. Then again, I'd never seen him look at someone the way he gazed at Dana, with complete and utter love. The jolt of pain returned, piercing the center of my chest. Rach's bottom lip pushed out. You'll find the right guy when you're ready. The sympathetic look on her face churned my stomach. If you want to help me, you'll forget my dead dating life and come up with a solution to my real problem. You need a job. She chewed thoughtfully, then swallowed. You can apply for a receptionist position at my office. Ginger just got promoted, and management needs a temp because her replacement doesn't start for 2 weeks. A light bulb illuminated over my head. Temporary income with minimum responsibility and no big judgment calls. That might be the best idea you've ever come up with. You're probably the first person to get excited about taking a career step down. She laughed, then turned to Noah, who'd come over to the padded bench we were sprawled across. How's it going, ladies? He slid in next to Rach, leaned down, and stole a bite of her sandwich. She pressed her lips to his cheek in return. Great! I pictured myself as the receptionist for the software company where Rach, Noah, and Gina worked and felt a tingle of excitement. Your girlfriend's brilliant. His blue eyes sparkled, and he winked at Rach. Tell me something I don't know. She smiled back at him. Instead of counseling people, Kristen wants to answer phones at our office for a living. Noah uncapped a bottle of iced tea. Is that so? Just until I figure out a permanent solution. I put a big chunk down on my condo, and the interest rate on my mortgage was criminally low, so I didn't need a huge income to get by right now. Will you guys put in a good word for me? Of course. Rach pushed the last bite of bread into Noah's mouth, then brushed a crumb off the back of her hand. But don't give up on counseling for good, Kristen. You love it. Yeah, but I'd lost my mojo and saw no sign of it coming back. The lease on my office expires in 2 weeks. Since I can't get my head on straight for therapy, my only choice is to search for something else I'm qualified for. I saw a career counseling class online. I'll sign up for that tonight. Ding ding. Hearing my phone chime, I pulled it from my purse and found a text message from Ethan. My pulse skipped unwillingly as I slid my finger across the screen. Save the date, Monday night. Special exhibit at the Sacramento History Museum. I bit my lip and stared at Ethan's text, contemplating whether or not I should go. Thanks for the snack. Noah brushed his lips against Rachel's cheek, and she immediately smiled. I'm gonna cool off. Noah took off his shirt, then tossed it on the bench as he walked toward the back of the boat. At the open gate, he rose on his toes, his ripped back muscles tightening before he leaned forward and dove into the water. Rach wore a giddy look before pulling off her cover-up. You coming in? I shook my head. Maybe later. What has you so distracted? Standing in her bikini, she hovered over my cell, scanning the screen. Who's that from? Yanking my phone out of her view, I scrunched up my face. Ethan? She gave me a side glance. What's he mean by save the date? I tilted my chin, curling in my shoulder. It's a thing we say when we hear about a cool exhibit or walk. Aw, you guys have a thing. She wiggled her eyebrows, then headed toward the back of the boat. He has a girlfriend, I reminded her. All I heard in response was a splash. Turning back to my phone, I thought about Rachel's teasing. I'd been the other woman, albeit unknowingly, once in my life, and didn't like the joking implication that Ethan and I were more than friends. Dana knew about our walks, though, and it's not like she wasn't welcome to join us. Come to think of it, why didn't she come? Huh. History must not be her gig. I replied, I'm in. See you, Mun. Tossing my phone back in my bag, I realized how much I'd accomplished since I left the house. A potential temp job, a career counseling class, and a museum exhibit. Surely I could take an hour out of the day to relax now. It had been a long time since I'd let myself chill out. I propped my feet against the side of the boat, leaned back against the pillow, and let the sun wash over me. My mind immediately wandered to thoughts of Ethan. I pictured the way his brown eyes simmered in a very hot and intense way whenever we talked about history, Italy, or anything he had a passion for. Even though I was almost 30, picturing that look made me gooey all over. I didn't even want to think how I'd react if he focused that intensity on me. Suddenly, every muscle in my body tightened. How pathetic was I for daydreaming about Ethan? He may seem like 100 forms of perfect, but the man probably had an army of skeletons in his closet. Thank goodness he had a girlfriend, and that I wasn't dating ever again. He and I were history pals, nothing more. Chapter 2. Monday morning, Rachel's office called while I was at my new gym, Totally Fit. After class, the Zumba instructor, Melanie, gave me an earful about her dating woes. Apparently no guy she dated ever wanted to get serious. Although I wanted to hand her a business card, I was no longer in that line of work. But she seemed so bubbly and sweet, I was dying to dive into her psyche and help her. In an alternate universe, maybe. Right now, I was off to answer phones. I arrived from my interview at Woodward Systems Corporation at 10 o'clock in the morning. The human resources manager, Chloe Campbell, was sharp, to the point, and didn't waste time. 20 minutes later, I'd been hired as the temporary receptionist. Gina tells me you're roommates. Ginger Nielsen, the gal who'd been promoted, was training me for her old position. She pulled her long, dark hair over one shoulder and twisted it automatically as if out of habit. She also says you're a marriage and family counselor. I felt a pang in my gut. In a former life. Her forehead crinkled. Do you think it's true that women choose men who are like their fathers? Because my dad's a raging alcoholic. The danger is that being around a guy with similar qualities to your father will automatically feel natural, so you have to be careful not to... I stopped and closed my mouth. I'm sorry, but to tell you the truth, I am the wrong person to ask. My last boyfriend turned out to be married, so what do I know? Her mouth dropped open. What a scumbag. How'd you catch him? Surprised, I blinked. I inadvertently saw him with his wife, but you're missing the point. He and I were seeing each other for 8 months, and I didn't have a clue that he'd been lying to me. She shook her head and raised her brows. You must have been devastated. Yes. I'd bawled my eyes out for a few weeks, sure. More importantly, though, I misevaluated him. Well, if he'd been wearing a wedding ring, obviously you wouldn't have gone out with him. Her forehead wrinkled. I'm no therapist, but you shouldn't blame yourself. Cringing, I shook my head. I don't. His actions are his responsibility. Right, but it sounds like you feel at fault for not catching him sooner. The girl was annoyingly astute. Aren't you supposed to be training me on the phones? My words may have been confrontational, but I needed her to stop. Obviously, I shouldn't blame myself for not catching him sooner, but I did. She put a hand to her chest. I'm sorry, it's none of my business. No. It's fine. Let's just stick to work, okay? Not a problem. Ginger spent the next half hour showing me the employee directory, how to use the interoffice email, and the way to transfer calls. It wasn't exactly brain surgery or like scoring the Rorschach test. The first call I made after Ginger left was to Gina. It rang twice before she answered. Gina Hall, may I help you? Why, yes, actually. My voice was tight. You can stop telling people I'm a counselor. Kristen, hey. If she was bothered by my tone, she didn't sound like it. How's the front desk treating you? Fine, until Ginger asked me if her bad dating choices might pertain to her alcoholic father. I lowered my voice as a guy entered the lobby from the door behind the reception desk, nodded a greeting at me, then exited out the front door. Why would you tell her, Gina? Because, she said in an exasperated tone, her medical benefits bite. She can't afford the out-of-pocket expense for counseling, and you're just sitting there using all your training and experience to transfer phone calls. That's my choice. You should have heard about her last boyfriend. Gina's voice lowered, even though she had her own office, and I doubted anyone was in there. Total drunk, and he was mean to her. My heart tugged, and I rubbed my forehead. Then the phone started ringing, so I sighed. I have to go. I switched calls and spoke into my earpiece. Woodward Systems Corporation, how may I direct your call? It's Rach. We still on for lunch? Her voice sounded panicked. I've got to talk to you. Wondering what had her on edge, I said, Sure, what's wrong? Can't say right now. She'd slipped to a hushed tone. I'm in my cubicle, no privacy. I'll be down in an hour. Okay. I hung up the phone, feeling dazed and hoping whatever had Rach upset wasn't a big deal. When the phone rang again, I tensed. Luckily, it was just a customer wanting to be transferred to the sales department. I pressed the appropriate buttons, announced the client, then sent the call. Easy and stress-free. If only my coworkers could be that way, I'd be set. Rach, Ellen, and I strolled several blocks to Sherry's Cafe in downtown Sac for lunch. Once we were seated and had ordered, I waited for Rach to drop her bomb. Instead, Ellen, who I'd been friends with since high school, patted my hand and gave me a proud look as if I were a 2-year-old who'd peed on the potty. How's your first day back at work? Everything going smoothly? Do you like it? I rolled my eyes. Yes, Mom. I mastered my times tables and got a sticker from the teacher. Rach snickered. Ellen found my joke less amusing, as evidenced by her narrowed eyes. I'm concerned about you, Kristen. Gina says you've been listening to Adele. Her tone made it sound like I'd resorted to drinking. My mouth dropped open. 1 month. Everyone's entitled to a little Adele after a breakup. Then I rebounded with Kelly Clarkson. Rach raised a finger. Kelly totally helped me through my breakup with Jeremy. I reached for my water glass. You see? Ellen seemed slightly mollified. Still, you haven't dated. What you need is a fling to get you back in the game. Henry has a friend. No way. I brought my hands to my chest. The last thing I need right now is another man. I'm focusing on me. Ellen leaned forward. How? You've closed your practice and you don't leave the house. I went to Folsom Lake with Rach and Noah this weekend. He took us out on his new boat. I'd have to thank Gina for forcing me out the door, thus giving me a retort for Ellen. You did? Really? She eyed my arms, then my face, as if she didn't believe me. Like I'd get a tan. As a redhead, my creamy complexion burns easily, and do I want to increase my chances for skin cancer? No thanks. Yes, really, I wore a hat, an SPF 50. Ellen suddenly turned to Rach. Why weren't Henry and I invited? Rach's eyes went wide. Although it should have been funny to see Rach squirm, I decided to bail her out. It wasn't a plot to exclude you, Ellen. She and Noah were going on their own, then Gina begged her to invite me. After the waiter set our plates down in front of us and left, Ellen lifted her fork. You see, Gina's worried about you too. Whoops, I walked right into that one. Nobody needs to worry about me. Everything's hunky-dory. Why don't you spread your love on Rach? She's the one with a problem. Rach's face tensed. That's putting it mildly. Ellen twirled her angel hair pasta onto her fork. What's going on, sweetie? Rach buried her face into her hands. I'm afraid Noah's going to dump me. My eyes widened in shock since her boyfriend was pretty amazing. Correction, he seemed amazing. He could be going home to his dearly beloved on weekends for all I knew. Except not this weekend, since we were all going out on Noah's boat to celebrate my 30th birthday. You guys were fine last Saturday. Did you find out he was married? She threw me a look. Don't even joke. It happens, I shrugged. Can't blame me for checking. Her face contorted as if she were sick. Noah's ex-girlfriend Kate is coming into town on Friday and they're going out to dinner. They were together for 2 years before he moved here and almost got engaged. Ellen reached for her water. She's flying up to visit Noah? That's odd. Rach flattened her palms on the table. He claims she'll be here for business. What does she do? Okay, I had career on the brain, but who knew when the perfect profession would cross my path? She's a 6 Sigma black belt for the Joffrey's Hotel chain. Rach said this in what I could only interpret as an English accent. My brows came together. Black belt, as in kung fu? How does martial arts help the hotel? It sure didn't help my career search, since I'd never even taken karate. She waved a hand dismissively. It's apparently an upper-level management position which creates methods for improving quality. Ellen picked up a slice of sourdough. Henry and I stayed at the Jeffreys when we honeymooned in Kauai. Not sure what they'd improve on, though, because our stay was amazing. Rach turned to Ellen, wearing a dark look. Maybe when Kate and Noah get back together, they can get you a sweet discount for your first anniversary? Ellen put a hand to her mouth. That didn't come out how I meant. You know I'm on your side, whatever it is. In response, Rachel's eyes welled. I reached across the table and put my hand over hers. You said his ex is coming to SAC for work, but why is that making you feel threatened in your relationship? Her lower lip trembled. Because she's gorgeous and she's seen my boyfriend naked? Clearly she's realized what she lost and wants him back. Ellen's mouth formed an O. Don't jump to conclusions, sweetie. Noah's trustworthy. I was about to agree that Noah was faithful, but I'd thought the same thing about Jake. So I closed my mouth and looked away. Rachel's mouth thinned and she turned to me. What, Kristen? You think he's hiding something? Should I talk to him about it? Tell him how insecure I feel? Well, my initial reaction was to suggest that exactly, opening up and talking to him about her concerns. But then again, it's not like my bonehead method of thinking had saved me from heartbreak. I scratched my temple, wondering what I'd do in her situation. If I'd run a background check on Jake before dating him, I would have known his marital status up front. Kristen, Ellen chided. She can't go behind Noah's back like that. I'm not saying she should. My forehead wrinkled, remembering how honest Jake had seemed. Noah comes off as committed, but nothing would shock me anymore. For all we know, he's been sexting his ex the last 2 months, and now they're hooking up to make it official. Rach made a mewing sound. Ellen gasped. Don't listen to her, Rach. She's jaded. I brought my hands to my chest. No, I'm realistic. Rach needs to keep her eyes open so she doesn't get hurt like I did. Rach's eyes bulged. You think he's cheating on me? I swallowed, wishing I could rule out the chance. I just want you to be careful. Don't overlook clues. In any case, it would be better to know sooner rather than later. She hugged herself. This is even worse than I thought. The waiter brought the check and I picked it up. I hated to see Rach upset, but it's not like I'd be doing her any favors by sugarcoating the possibilities. Ellen snatched the bill away. I hope you're happy with yourself. My eyes widened. What? For trying to make sure my friend doesn't get played? She blew out a breath. You're paranoid. Just because your ex was a jerk doesn't mean Noah is. Doesn't mean he isn't, I said, hating to point out the cold, hard fact. I tried to put some cash in the tray, but Ellen brushed me off, setting down her credit card instead. Save your money for therapy. You've totally lost it. No, I just didn't want Rach to get blindsided the way I had. That evening, I arrived at the 2-story brick building that housed the Sacramento History Museum and spotted Ethan sitting out front on an ornately carved wooden bench. He looked like he belonged in a museum himself. One that would display a perfectly chiseled male statue, that is. He wore khaki pants and a white polo shirt that stretched across his broad chest. The sleeves hugged his well-defined biceps, and I couldn't help wondering what he did to stay in such phenomenal shape. Oh, great. What if he had a membership at Totally Fit? It was located by his work, after all. Watching him lift weights would be an impossible distraction to my workout. Not that it wouldn't be enjoyable. As I walked toward him, the negative vibes from my day diminished. His dark eyes caught my gaze, and the corners of his mouth turned upward. He stood, then strode toward me. Tingles danced along my neck. "You're early," I said.
"So are you."
Ethan leaned in and gave me a brief kiss on the cheek. My skin hummed where his lips had brushed, even though I knew he didn't mean anything by it. Must be something he'd grown accustomed to while he'd lived in Europe. I'd have to go there someday.
"How are things?"
His deep brown eyes peered into mine, their undivided attention making me feel as if he wasn't making idle chat, but really wanted to know. I tucked a piece of hair behind my ear, then started toward the entrance. Guilt over my conversation with Rach washed over me. Not so great, actually. As he strolled along beside me, he threw me a side glance.
"Care to elaborate?"
Sure, it'd be interesting to have a guy's opinion on the issue. I crossed the threshold past the building's tall, white window-pane doors, then glanced up at Ethan. "What's your take on exes staying in touch? Is it okay if they go to dinner together, even if one is already in another relationship?" Ethan's dark brows came together.
"Is Jake trying to start things up with you again?"
My face scrunched. Jake? Ugh, no. We stepped up in line to pay our exhibit fee, and his forehead remained creased.
"Because he doesn't deserve to be in the same vicinity as you, let alone the same dinner table. If he's bothering you, even in the slightest, I'll gladly file a restraining order."
Wow. I'd never heard Ethan lose his cool before, to the point of threatening to use his lawyerly powers. For me, even though he was actually a personal injury lawyer, but still. Major hero factor, and I swooned a little. "Come on, Kristen, get it together." "That's sweet of you, Ethan, but it's not necessary." Without thinking, I put a hand on his forearm, which flexed under my fingers. I'd touched him innocently, but the feel of his muscles against my skin sent all kinds of inappropriate zings through me, so I withdrew my hand. I cleared my throat. I haven't spoken with Jake since we broke up and don't plan to. Ever. It's my friend's boyfriend who's having dinner with his ex. His expression relaxed, and he glanced at where my hand had touched his arm before meeting my eyes again.
"I'm glad to hear that. You deserve better. Way better."
My cheeks flushed at his comment. Now at the front of the line, I reached into my purse, but Ethan handed the man his credit card before I could give him mine.
"My turn."
He winked at me.
"You got the last one, remember?"
"Thank you," I said, stepping aside to wait for him. You didn't have to do that. Of course I'd treated last time. I had to do something to make up for being a bad friend. After Ellen's wedding last December, I'd rambled on to Ethan about Jake's betrayal, how he'd been married, and that I never wanted to date again as long as I lived. I chastised myself for babbling all my dirty laundry to Ethan and wanted to blame Ellen's open bar and buttery Chardonnay. But as a therapist, I needed to own my own behavior. So I'd avoided Ethan for 2 months. Whenever he'd asked me to save the date, I'd make up excuses not to go. What can I say? I'd gone into protective hibernation mode, aka cleaning my condo and driving my roommate bonkers. At least I obsessed in a productive manner. My condo has never looked better. Anyway, buying Ethan's ticket last weekend had been the least I could do. It was a wonder he still wanted to hang with such a motormouth who had bad judgment, especially when he could be spending time with Dana, whose only flaw seemed to be her lack of interest in history. Shudder. Ethan handed me our torn tickets, then held his arm out in a gentlemanly gesture.
"After you."
We ambled toward the room with the special exhibit.
So, give me the guy's perspective.
He shrugged.
I don't see what the big deal is. I have a couple ex-girlfriends who I keep in touch with online. It might be nice to have lunch and catch up sometime. If my girlfriend were jealous, it'd make me feel like she didn't trust me.
Really? You don't think there's anything skeevy about it? I hadn't at one time either, but that was before I'd been played. And in reverse, you wouldn't mind if your girlfriend went out to dinner with an ex? He stopped in front of the first exhibit.
If he was a weasel who deceived her and she'd found out he was married, I'd mind.
My jaw nearly dropped at his hard tone. And had he really just used me as an example girlfriend? Well, clearly she'd be crazy to want that, I said.
If he'd treated her right, but they didn't mesh long term, I wouldn't have a problem with them catching up. But that's just me.
He shrugged.
What do you think of this hat?
My mind reeled from Ethan's harsh reference to Jake. I'd never heard Ethan speak so passionately about something before, not even Italian history, which he loved. I swallowed, then read the placard on the exhibit he'd asked about. The green-plated straw bonnet dating back to the 1800s? It's gorgeous. And looks similar to a hat I wore boating this weekend. He turned my way with a curious look.
Where'd you go boating?
On Folsom Lake. I scooted down to the next exhibit, which was a brown straw bonnet with an adorable ribbon trim. This I love too. If I'd been alive 2 centuries ago, I'd totally have bought it. Wait, it's for sale at $2,000. Ouch. Makes the sun hat I bought at the mall sound like a steal. He chuckled and gestured to the typed explanation next to the price.
It's not for sale. This hat is part of the museum's Adopt an Artifact program. You pay $2,000 to sponsor the cost of preserving the artifact for future generations to see.
Cool program. I sidestepped down to the next item, which was a horsehair woven hat. This one's $1,500. If I could afford it, I'd donate to conserve this one. But since I'm currently answering phones for a living, it's slightly over my budget. He raised his brows as if concerned.
What happened to your practice?
I've taken a sabbatical the last couple months. Once again, my stomach bubbled with worry over my low bank balance. The lease on my office expires in less than 2 weeks, and I've decided not to renew. I'm searching for a new career. I wondered what the job description of a conservationist entailed. Ethan turned and faced me straight on.
Why would you do that? You love your work.
It's a long story. My voice trailed off, making it obvious I wasn't going to talk about it. Too depressing. I enrolled in career counseling yesterday. They have multiple questionnaires and assignments, so I'll find something else. I hoped.
Let me know if I can help.
He didn't push, but the double line between his brows remained.
Back to your friend. How does she feel about her boyfriend visiting with his ex?
Not too thrilled. Why do men need to hang out with their ex anyway? When did one woman stop being enough? He scooted down to the next display.
Is her boyfriend not a stand-up guy?
He seems like he is, but I told her to be smart about it. You know, in case he's hiding something. My heart ached as I recalled Rachel's worried expression after lunch. Ethan raised his brows, but didn't respond. What? I pursed my lips. You think I should have told her to trust blindly like a sitting duck? I don't want her to get screwed over like I did. He slid his arm around my shoulders.
I'm sorry.
2 simple words, but I'd never been more confused by a sentence. For what? He gazed down at me earnestly.
For how Jake betrayed you. You didn't deserve that.
I fought the burn behind my eyes. I'm over it. He put a finger under my chin and tilted my face up to him.
It's okay if you're not, you know.
His eyes captured mine, and my breath caught in my throat. He had that intense and passionate look he gets when he's completely focused, except this time it was on me. Held captive in his gaze, my worries faded away, and the only thing occupying my mind was Ethan. The air thickened between us, and I felt an emotional cord pulling me toward him. Suddenly, an elderly couple pushed up next to us, their loud voices bringing the world around me back into focus. Everything seemed messy and difficult again. "I'm fine, Ethan, but thanks for asking." I quickly stepped away from him and turned my attention to the next exhibit. When I felt him come up beside me, my heart pounded against my chest in long, steady beats. He leaned toward my ear.
"I have something I want to show you."
"Oh, really?" My mind zipped to all kinds of inappropriate images. The corners of his mouth lifted.
"It's a huge secret I've never shown anyone before."
Okay, unless Ethan was a virgin, we were definitely thinking of different things. "Tell me." He turned so we were facing each other, his eyes sizzling with excitement.
"First, you have to promise never to tell another living soul about this."
Talk about piquing my curiosity. "I promise," I said, glancing at his pockets, which seemed empty. "Where is it?" With a mysterious smile, he clasped his hand around mine and led me toward the exit.
"My place."
I gulped. His place? This was so not a good idea. Unable to resist, I hurried along beside him. Chapter 3. 15 minutes later, I pulled into Ethan's driveway in East Sacramento, a neighborhood I adored for its charming custom homes, many of which were built almost a century ago. Someday, I'd love to turn my condo into a rental and buy a house in a cozy neighborhood like this. If I figured out a new career, that is. Ethan's house was an English-style cottage, and I parked behind his detached single-car garage as instructed. We got out of our cars at the same time, and he pressed a remote to close his garage door as we walked toward the arched wood front door. Wow, Ethan. His home had a darling, simple facade, painted light brown with dark brown shutters and white-paned windows. Neatly trimmed bushes lined either side of the front of the porch, their pink blossoms giving off a sweet honeysuckle scent. "Your house is beautiful, and the flowers smell amazing."
"Thanks."
He fiddled with his keys, then put it in the lock.
"I'd like to take credit, but I have a gardener."
"Gardening, huh? Not too much personal judgment, and I'd be making the world a prettier place. But then again, it'd kill my manicure. Not worth it." Feeling a little nervous, I followed Ethan inside, where the entry opened up into his living room. Everything was tastefully decorated, simple, and comfortable.
"Make yourself at home."
Ethan gestured toward a large, cushy sofa with a matching loveseat.
"You hungry at all?"
It was almost 8 o'clock, and I'd had dinner before meeting Ethan in Old Sac. I ate earlier, thanks though.
"Would you like a glass of wine?"
"Love one." After the day I'd had, I could use the whole bottle. I found myself wandering over to the mantel, which was lined with various picture frames. "Mind if I check out your photos?"
"Sure, go ahead,"
he called from the kitchen. I started on the left, picking up a framed photo of Ethan and a group of guys on a boat. I recognized the background with its vast sapphire blue water enveloped with the brown mountain cascade splattered with vibrant green pine trees. This was taken in Tahoe, right?
"Yep."
He returned, holding empty wine glasses in one hand and an unopened bottle in the other.
"The two guys on the left are associates at my law firm. We own the boat together."
"Sounds fun." I set the frame back on the wooden mantel, turned, and accepted the glass he held out. Remembering the serene feeling as we glided across the lake last weekend, I smiled. Being on the water is so peaceful and relaxing. I love it.
"Then I'll have to take you."
He twisted the wine opener into the cork, then pulled the stopper out with a little pop.
"The weather forecast is nice this weekend. How about Saturday?"
"Saturday's my birthday." I was turning 30 and seriously hoped the next decade would start better than this one ended. "A bunch of us are going up to Folsom Lake if you'd like to save the date." The invitation slipped out and I held my breath.
"Absolutely."
He smiled, his gorgeous brown eyes twinkling, then he filled our wine glasses.
"I can bring my boat if you'd like."
"Sure, if you don't mind. With a large group, 2 boats would be better than one." My stomach fluttered at the thought of Ethan coming, and I immediately felt guilty. This must be why I blurted, "You should totally bring Dana, of course." His brows furrowed.
Why?
I stared at him blankly. "Don't you want to?"
No.
He shrugged.
She has a life of her own, just like I do.
Shocked, I fought to keep my jaw from dropping to the floor. The way he spoke, it sounded like they led separate lives. Not at all how I pictured Ethan in a relationship. Weird. And disconcerting, for that matter. He lifted his glass, and his eyes lit with excitement.
Are you ready for the secret?
When he clinked his glass into mine, I took a sip so long I'd need a refill shortly. Tucking my hair behind my ear, I wandered back toward the mantel. I'm feeling weird about this whole secret thing. He took a step toward me.
Why?
I guffawed. Because you said nobody else knows? A confused look crossed his face.
I trust you.
His words warmed my insides, so I turned away from him, fingering the frames on his mantel. Does Dana know about the secret? He set his wine glass on the coffee table, then put a finger under my chin to tilt my face toward his.
Kristen, what's going on? Why do you keep asking about Dana?
With his deep brown eyes peering into mine, butterflies went wild in my belly, which was so wrong I made an exasperated sound. It just matters a lot. He shook his head like he didn't get it, then he finally said,
Yes, she knows about it.
I'm glad to hear that. Instead of relief flowing through me, my chest ached with jealousy.
Wait a minute.
He made an incredulous sound.
Do you think Dana and I are dating?
Suddenly, my eyes came to rest on a silver-framed photo of Ethan and Dana. Without thinking, I picked up the picture of them. Well, aren't you?
No.
His voice was deadpan.
Dana is my sister.
It was an honest miracle I didn't drop the frame. If Dana was Ethan's sister, then my judgment had been way off, like light years off, again. Then tingles sprinkled up my arms as I realized what else it meant. Ethan was single. I'd barely started my workday on Tuesday when Ellen appeared in front of my desk. She'd left me 2 voicemails last night while I'd been at Ethan's, and both were about how I needed to call Rach and reassure her she had nothing to worry about with Noah. No sugarcoating with Ellen, that's for sure. I gave her a warning look. Please don't harass me this morning, I'm exhausted. When the phone rang, I pressed a button and spoke into my headset. Woodward Systems Corporation, how may I direct your call? One moment. It was a relocation company asking for Chloe Campbell, and my brows came together as I transferred the lady. Weird. Ellen leveled me with her eyes.
Why didn't you call me back last night? Gina says you were home by 9.
I was busy avoiding her, that is. When I'd arrived home after leaving Ethan's, I'd found Gina cuddling on the couch with her boyfriend, Chris, which added an extra slice and dice to my gut. If Noah might be doing who knows what with his ex, I didn't want to think about what Chris could have on the side. So, instead of calling Ellen back, my pent-up feelings circled my brain, and I spent the night tossing and turning, torturing myself about how I'd mistaken Ethan's sister for his girlfriend, then torturing myself for hightailing it out of his house so abruptly, even before he'd been able to show me the secret, whatever it was. Once Ethan said Dana was his sister, I glanced at the photo, and it was so painfully obvious. They both had thick, dark hair, the same mocha-brown eyes, and even their smiles mirror each other's. Full lips turned up, revealing straight white teeth. Lame, moronic me couldn't even tell a sibling from a significant other. It's like Jake's betrayal had flipped a switch in my brain from on to so completely off. Ellen leaned over the reception desk so far I could smell the perfume of her favorite coconut lotion.
Rach is determined to prove to you that Noah isn't cheating on her. She arrived 2 hours early to work this morning and went through his entire office to confirm there wasn't evidence he's getting it on with his ex. You need to fix the mess you created, Kristen.
I'd totally fix things for Rach if I knew how. But all I was qualified to do right now was answer phones. You do realize I chose this job because it's supposed to be stress-free." She steeled her eyes.
"I'm your best friend, Kristen. I've known you for 15 years, since you found me crying under the bleachers over Doug Saunders, who dumped me after I'd let him get to second base."
"That louse," I said, remembering Ellen's first broken heart. She nodded.
"Do you remember what you said to me?"
The words echoed in my brain as if I'd just said them. "Move on, girl. He's not worth it."
"Words to live by."
She twisted her head, but her eyes stayed with me.
"Your advice about Noah, however, is so off base, it's scary."
My computer let out a beep, alerting me I had an incoming email. So I raised a finger at Ellen and turned to my screen.
"Kristen, I'm expecting a very important call from my husband. If I'm on another line, please have someone interrupt me. Thank you, Chloe."
I quickly typed back an affirmative response, then hit send. "Relocation company. Urgent call from her husband. Ellen tapped her fingernails against the counter.
"I miss my sweet, caring friend who always gives us awesome advice and who gives people the benefit of the doubt. You need to move on, girl. He's not worth it."
Remembering last night with Ethan, I shook my head. "That girl is gone. You know how I told you that Ethan was in a serious relationship? Turns out that girl I saw him with was his sister." Her eyes bulged.
"Are you serious?"
My throat tightened and I fought to keep my expression level. Like I'd joke about the way I can no longer read people. The door behind me opened and Rich Woodward, the president of the software company, strode in wearing a dark suit with a green tie. We both waved to him and put on serious expressions as if he'd buy that we were discussing work.
"Right."
Ellen gave me a look, then whispered,
"I'd better get back upstairs."
I nodded, flicking my eyes to where Rich had just exited the building. Ellen paused at the door to the back, then said in a stern voice,
"Apologize to Rach. At lunch."
She raised a finger at me.
"Or else."
I sighed, having no idea what to say to Rach. I have something else to take care of at lunch, but I'll think about what to tell her. I used to know exactly how people could improve their situations and never hesitated helping them. Now I didn't have a clue. The expiring lease on my cozy office in Midtown flashed in my mind, piercing my chest. But what could I do? My confidence in assessing human behavior was gone. I needed to move on to a new career. And I had the feeling an excellent position at Woodward Systems Corp was about to become available. I got off the elevator on the second floor, hurrying toward Noah's office when Rach stepped in front of me, blocking my path. She put her hands on her hips. "I've gone through Noah's cell phone, his filing cabinets, and his office desk. There's no evidence he's cheating on me. His dinner with Kate is strictly platonic." Under her scrutinizing gaze, I forced a smile. "Good. I'm glad." Her right brow lifted. "Admit you were wrong about him." I held my palms up. "I never said he was cheating." "But you said it's a possibility, and it's not." Her voice wavered. "Noah would never do that to me." My gut tightened. Noah didn't seem like the type to stray, but I wasn't going to assure her of his fidelity when I didn't know for sure. "Rach, this is your relationship. You're the one who needs to feel secure. It shouldn't matter what I think." She huffed, then strode toward the elevator. I'd given her my best advice, but apparently that had been the wrong thing. Shocker. In addition, the frustrating exchange had taken a bite out of my lunch hour, and I had research to do. Shaking my head, I continued down the hall, then knocked on the open door to Noah's office. "Hey, Noah. Still all right that I use your computer during lunch?"
"Yep."
He gathered his belongings, then gestured toward his desk.
"I'm meeting a client uptown, so it's all yours."
"Thanks." I slid into the plush leather chair, pulled the keyboard closer, then brought up a search engine page. I had less than an hour to figure out if Chloe Campbell was about to give notice.
"No problem."
Noah walked toward the door, paused, then closed it.
"Can I ask you something?"
My fingers froze over the keyboard, and I lifted my lashes to find Rachel's boyfriend staring at me. Noah Peterson was tall, well-built, had sandy brown hair and sparkling blue eyes. He wasn't deep and layered like Ethan. Noah was more likely to discuss baseball stats than world history, but still. He was friendly, good-looking, and it was obvious why Rach had been attracted to him. If only we knew whether or not he was hiding secrets from her. "What's up, Noah?" I checked my watch, hoping this wouldn't take long. He sat in a chair, then slouched forward with his elbows on his knees.
"Something happened with Rach, and I could use some advice."
My stomach tightened, knowing I was the last person Noah should get advice from. "Maybe you should try Ellen? The clock's ticking on my career counseling class, remember?" This was totally true. I needed to finish the class as a fallback in case my hunch was wrong and the human resources manager position wasn't opening up.
Or if I didn't get it, gasp.
He stood immediately.
"Sorry, I didn't mean to get in your way."
My heart clenched, so I gestured for him to sit back down. "No, this can wait. What's going on? I'm listening." A look of appreciation crossed his face.
"It could be nothing."
Famous last words from many of my former clients. "Tell me." He wrung his hands together.
"I stepped out of my office earlier today. When I came back, I caught Rach going through my cell phone."
Ugh, I can't believe she'd do that during office hours without a lookout. "What did she say when you asked her about it?"
"I didn't."
He glanced away as if embarrassed.
"Things have been tense between us the last couple days, and I didn't want to make things worse. Do you think I should talk to her about it? We're supposed to be able to tell each other anything."
It felt obvious how much Noah cared about Rach, but I'd been wrong before. My lips twisted to the side. "I think you should examine your own motivations first. Once you're sure what you want, discuss it with her." He squinted, then tilted his head as if confused.
"Okay."
"Good." I checked the time and started to stress. "Anything else?" He paused, then shook his head.
"Thanks, Kristen."
"No problem." I nodded, hoping he was on the up and up with my friend. Once Noah had finally left for lunch, I searched Chloe's husband's name online and discovered he'd accepted a new job in Oregon. Jackpot. Picking up the telephone receiver, I punched in Chloe's extension and got her voicemail. "Hi, Chloe, it's Kristen. Can we talk for a few minutes when you're available? It's really important. Thanks." Sighing with frustration as I hung up the phone, I forced myself to stay calm. It's not like Chloe had announced her resignation yet, so surely I'd be the first person to pitch for the job. With my background in psychology and my college job as a human resources assistant, I had a good chance at getting hired. But I needed a backup just in case it fell through. Clicking the mouse onto the web browser, I typed in the address for my career counseling class, Career Crush, and read my assignment for the day. "Dear Kristen Moore, tired of going to a job you don't love, wishing you could find the perfect career? Well, you're on track. Congratulations for signing up at Career Crush. Your task. When searching for the career you love, keep all possibilities open. Your task is to shadow someone in a career you wouldn't normally choose, write down your experience in 1 to 2 pages, then turn it in for our evaluation. It's essential that you include aspects that you both liked and disliked. Ready, set, find your career crush. Sincerely, the staff at Career Crush." I logged off Noah's computer, slipped my purse strap over my shoulder, then headed for the door, wondering who had a job I could shadow. Ding ding. Pulling my phone out of my handbag, I checked the screen to find a text from Ethan.
"Hey, you rushed out so fast last night I didn't get the time for your party Saturday. Let me know. E."
Instead of texting Ethan back, I tapped on his number, then listened as the phone rang.
"Hey, Kristen."
I heard a click in the background that sounded like a door closing.
"I didn't expect you to call."
Oops, he might be on a lunch date for all I knew. "Am I interrupting something?"
"No," he said quickly. "Just eating at my desk, writing motions, the usual stuff."
Knowing he was alone, I smiled into my phone. Sounds scintillating. His low chuckle sent chills through me. I swallowed. "I'm calling for a favor."
Name it.
It's for my career counseling program. I press myself further against my ear. I need to observe a career that I wouldn't normally choose. Then I thought, lawyer. What do you say? He paused a moment.
How about tomorrow?
That would be amazing. I blinked, surprised he'd worked me into his schedule so soon. I don't get off until 5. Is that too late?
Not at all. Our staff leaves at 5 too, but most of the attorneys stay late. Should be plenty of paper pushing for you to observe here.
Excellent, I laughed. I really appreciate this, Ethan.
Glad to help.
His tone sounded like he meant it.
So, what time is your birthday bash on Saturday?
We're meeting at noon on Folsom Lake. Since Dana wasn't his girlfriend, I needed to make it clear this was a friendly invite so he didn't find out I had a crush on him. Some people are coming with their significant others, so bring a date if you'd like.
Thanks. See you tomorrow.
Bye. My stomach clenched as I turned my phone off. Surely Ethan wouldn't have thanked me for the date suggestion unless he planned to bring someone to my birthday party. But who? He hadn't mentioned he was seeing anyone. Suddenly feeling nauseated, I frowned. If the mere thought of Ethan with another woman bothered me this much, I didn't want to know how it'd feel to see them together. I trudged down the hall, wishing I'd kept my big mouth shut on the whole date thing. The door chimed as I walked in to Totally Fit that evening. Since I'd joined this gym during my sabbatical, I used to attend morning classes. Luckily, my favorite Zumba instructor also taught Tuesday and Thursday evenings. After the cool-down and stretching, class ended, but I remained sprawled out on the floor like limp spaghetti. That was just what I needed, Mel. Glad to hear it. The perky instructor turned off the music, tightened her ponytail, then her long blonde mane bounced onto one shoulder. Are you staying for the Pilates class? I'm covering it for Erica tonight since she's out on a hot date. I rolled over onto my belly and looked up at her. I'm beat, but I think I'll cool down on the treadmill for a few more minutes. Good idea. She dropped down next to me with the bottoms of her feet together in butterfly position, then bobbed her knees up and down. Remembering how she'd opened up to me about her problems last time, I blurted, "How are things going? Any better?" "Oh, it's been one of those days." Her legs froze and she leaned forward, placing her elbows on the mat. My stepsister got laid off. She's put in applications everywhere, but nobody's hiring. If she doesn't get a job by the end of the month, she's going to have to move in with our parents. Not a fun prospect at 28. No, moving in with my parents would have driven me nuts at any age. They bickered constantly, and evening dinners were always a battle of who had wronged who the most. Not times I treasured or cared to repeat on a nightly basis. Holidays were bad enough. You still bummed it didn't work out between you and Marcus? Her mouth spread into a huge grin. Nope. This guy who's been flirting with me here at the gym asked me out. We're going to see a Rivercats game tomorrow night at Rayleigh Field. Good for you. Actually, baseball bored me. I'd gone to a few games with Jake, but by the third inning I'd pulled out my phone to read a romance novel. But I was glad to see Mel in good spirits again. I hope you have fun. Oh, I plan to. She winked at me, then glanced up as the new class started trickling in. Marveling that she'd date so soon after her broken heart, I somehow gathered enough energy to pull myself off the floor. See you Thursday. Melanie waved, then started greeting the women who'd filed in. On noodle legs, I hobbled over to the treadmills and popped on the only empty one. I set the speed for 2.5 miles per hour, hit the start button, then walked at a gingerly pace.
Kristen?
A deep male voice beside me said. Startled to hear my name, my head pivoted slowly until I was looking up into the smooth, mocha-brown eyes of the man in a slow jog next to me. I tripped, then grabbed the side rails to steady myself. Ethan!
Hey!
Keeping up his brisk pace, he smiled.
I didn't know you worked out here.
Just joined a couple months ago. My eyes unwittingly traveled from his face down to the white running shirt that stretched across his muscular chest. His bent arms swung back and forth, showing off his well-defined biceps. Oh my. My tongue felt like lead, but I forced myself to speak, in lieu of ogling. I used to go to the morning classes, but now I'm at work all day. My voice trailed off when he glanced at my settings. He upped his pacing to 5.0.
I'm glad to see you.
Really? I watched his muscular legs pump up and down, his shoes pounding the track in a way that was making me flush. Why's that? His breath was coming faster now, making me hot all over. This was so not an appropriate reaction to have about my history pal. My deliciously muscular history pal.
I could use your advice, he said.
About what? Even though I was supposed to be on cooldown, I increased my speed to 3.0. Maybe the pain in my legs would distract me from staring at Ethan's fit and sweaty body exercising next to me. He rubbed his wrist across his forehead.
How can a guy tell if a woman's interested in him?
Alarms sounded in my head and my brows shot up. Meaning interested in you, right? The side of his mouth tilted upward.
Nice catch, counselor.
I like to get down to business. I upped my speed because the way his skin glistened made me want to slide my hands up his arms. More pain. Needed way more pain.
I'm noticing several things.
His words came out choppy from his heavy breaths.
I'll catch her watching me, but when she sees me notice, she glances away. Also, she'll brush my arm sometimes when she's talking, stuff like that.
So annoying for my gender. What kind of woman played those silly games? After eyeing Ethan's legs again, I finally tapped my arrow until I'd reached a respectable jog. If a girl worth dating liked you, you'd know it.
How?
She'd make it clear, trust me. I swallowed, thinking about what I'd do if I wanted Ethan. Starting with rubbing my hands all over those glistening muscles. I so needed to snap out of it. Tell me about this secret of yours. Glancing over, the side of his mouth curved upward.
You left so abruptly last night, you missed your chance to see it. What makes you think I'll offer again?
Oh, that's how he was going to play it? Give me a clue. His eyes heated.
What will you give me in return?
Several images flashed in my mind, sending so many zings through my belly, I slammed the stop button on the treadmill. Jumping off, I landed and my legs gave out. In a flash, a strong hand grasped my arm.
You all right?
Thoroughly humiliated, but determined not to show it, I raised my chin. I worked leg weights before Zumba class, so my legs might be going on strike. Seeming satisfied I wasn't going to fall, Ethan straddled the treadmill, then leaned toward me.
I'll show you the secret tomorrow night, after you come by my office.
Very aware he was still holding my arm, I stared up at him and forced a shrug. Maybe, if I'm still interested. He straightened, then ran his teeth over his bottom lip.
You'll be interested, I guarantee it.
We'll see. Waving my fingers, I slid out of his grasp, then strode toward the exit. Feeling his eyes on me, I refused to look back. Tomorrow I'd shadow Ethan at his office, then go home to write my report. I wouldn't ask to see the secret. Not even for a lifetime pass to historical museums. Even though I wanted to know the secret now more than ever. Chapter 4. The next morning, I crossed my legs where I sat in Chloe's office, ready to sell myself on her job. She'd already seen my resume, which showed some human resources experience, but not a ton. It was up to me to ease any worry she might have that I'd learn to do her job quickly and proficiently. I could already envision the daily lunches with the girls. Chloe appeared perfectly put together behind her massive desk. Not a wrinkle in her suit, not a hair out of place.
Kristen, I'm having a meltdown of epic proportions.
Okay, not what I expected to hear. Anything I can help you with? Great employees will help in a myriad of situations.
I'm so glad you asked.
She let out a sigh of relief.
My shrink chose this week of all weeks to go on vacation. Then this colossal quandary drops in my lap. Can you believe it?
No, I honestly couldn't. I'd moved on from my former career, but pretty much nobody else would join me. I sighed. What's going on? She twisted her hand in the air.
My husband has been offered this huge promotion.
No kidding.
Congratulations. It's a great opportunity for Adam, but it's out of state.
She put her pink-painted fingernail between her teeth.
Oregon is beautiful, don't get me wrong, but it rains a lot, and all my family's here, you know?
I nodded, even though being far from my family wouldn't devastate me. Are there any pros to him taking the job?
The money.
She gave me a look that said it was no small number.
We wouldn't need my income, so I could stay home with our kids, which I'd love. But I've worked hard to get to where I am in my career, and the girls adore their preschool.
Sounds like a tough dilemma. Take the job, take it. I shifted in my chair. Are there any other concerns you're having? She pressed her lips together as if I'd read her mind.
Adam, it's his dream. How can I take that away from him?
The faith she had in their longevity dumbfounded me. What's your dream? Her eyes rounded.
That's a hard question. When do I ever have time to think about me? I'm too busy running carpools, playing board games, making dinner, and let's not forget about work. After all is said and done, there's no time for my needs.
She made marriage and family sound divine, not. Why don't you make a list of your top 10 things that make you happy in life? Then rank them in order of importance. Man, when was the last time I'd done that? College? Once you're done, circle the top 3, then compare them to living here versus moving to Oregon. Chloe's face lit up.
That sounds so easy.
Good, I laughed. Then do it. Sometimes writing it out in black and white can make a decision feel less overwhelming than when it circles around in your brain. It also puts into perspective what's really important to you.
I'll give it a go. Thanks so much.
She smiled, then pulled her cell out of her drawer.
You just simplified what seemed like a chaotic decision. I really appreciate your help.
Since it appeared as if she was going to call someone, I assumed our conversation was over and rose from my chair. It's not like I could make my big pitch now after she'd bared her problems to me, so I just said, "If you do decide to move, I'd love to be considered for your position." Her brows came up as if she hadn't thought of that.
Sure thing, Kristen. Although I'm surprised you're not going back to counseling. You have such a calm and confident personality, which makes it very easy to open up to you.
Although she meant well, the compliment stung, like a remnant from my past that kept coming back to haunt me. "Thanks," I said, then closed her office door behind me. I didn't envy Chloe her tough choice ahead, and I couldn't imagine the responsibility of having my husband's dream rest on my shoulders. Or mine resting on his. What if they were in conflict with each other? For some reason, I thought of Ethan and wondered what I'd do if his dream career came along and it was my choice whether he'd take it or not. I pictured that simmering look he got when something was important to him and the slow way his lips curved upward. I'd do pretty much anything to see that look magnified. And somewhere deep inside, I felt a spark of hope that he'd do the same thing for me. It felt weird being at Ethan's place of business, especially when his young secretary threw me a hostile glance after showing me to his office, like I'd invaded her territory. I couldn't help wondering if he'd ever hooked up with her. Not that I cared. "Your secretary doesn't like me." The word slipped out as I took a seat in front of his desk. Oops. Ethan chose the seat next to me instead of sitting behind the desk in his regular office chair. He looked incredibly handsome in a suit and tie, his blazer hanging on a wooden coat rack just inside the door. Tall, dark, and handsome. So cliché, yet so Ethan. His brows came together.
What did she do?
Trying to ignore how close we were sitting, my shoulder lifted. Cold greeting, death glare, they didn't exactly scream, "I love you." He put his hand over mine.
Don't take it personally. For the first 6 months Carol worked here, I thought she hated me. That scowl is the cause of many nightmares around the office, but after 3 years, I know that's just how she is. She's a great secretary in any case.
Interesting. The distant way he spoke about her made it sound like they'd never gotten touchy-feely, even though she was pretty and he looked as close to an Italian god as a mortal man can get. And did he know that his hand was still on mine? Because every part of my body knew it, even places that were so not appropriate for a history bud. Pulling my hand away, I tucked my hair behind my ear. Feel free to work while I'm here. I'm just supposed to shadow and observe. He eyed me a moment, then rose to his feet.
Let me give you a quick tour first so you can see the law in action. Very exciting stuff.
Ethan showed me both floors of the law office. He was right. A lot of people worked past 5 at this firm. He introduced me to a real estate lawyer upstairs, Tiffany, who seemed nice. She was on her way out to drinks with her friend Amanda, who gazed up at Ethan and hung on every word he said. She had to be the girl Ethan asked me about at the gym. If so, the answer was obviously yes. Amanda was way into him. Tiffany lowered her voice and asked me if Ethan and I were dating, but I assured her we were just friends. Watching Tiffany's friend chat with Ethan, it was easy to see why she'd wanted to know if he was a free agent. What I couldn't tell was how Ethan felt about Amanda, which unnerved me. I mean, wasn't he supposed to be helping me with my career crush task? Finally, after explaining to Amanda several times special damages versus general damages in civil lawsuits that I'd swear she understood the first time around, he bid them goodbye and led me to the conference room downstairs where he had a bunch of manila file folders piled in various stacks.
Let me know if you have any questions,
he said, then dove into his work, pouring through a file labeled Discovery Documents, whatever they were. He typed notes onto his laptop using 2 fingers, I noted. He was actually fast with them, and the tap-tap-tap of the keys went on until I'm pretty sure he forgot I was there. Ho-hum. Needless to say, I found lawyering to be, in one word, boring. There was no human interaction, nothing to stimulate me. Slumping onto the conference table, I supported my head with my hand and studied him. I'd known Ethan around 9 months, but still hadn't figured him out. He seemed too focused, too together. What was really going on behind those intense mocha eyes? Maybe he was hiding body parts in his briefcase, which would be a shame since his briefcase appeared to be genuine leather. You never knew, though. The man admittedly had secrets that he refused to show me. Unable to stand the silence between us any longer, I squinted. Your secret can't possibly be as cool as you think it is. His fingers froze over the keyboard and the corner of his mouth turned up as his eyes flicked to mine.
You held out longer than I expected. I knew you still wanted to see it.
His immediate response and the look he'd given me made it clear he hadn't phased me out while we'd been working. No, he'd been aware of me the entire time. The realization made me smile. I didn't say I wanted to see it, I just doubt it's as riveting as you claim.
It is.
He swiveled until he was facing me, then the corners of his mouth tipped up.
I'm not showing you, though, until you admit you're dying to know about it.
I pursed my lips and shook my head. Not really. Dying might be overstating it. Or not. He checked his watch.
I'm pretty much done here, and I have an errand to run. Before we go, do you have any questions about the office or the law?
My heart sank, but I sat up quickly. Nope, I'm good.
Okay, then.
He closed his laptop, slid it next to one of the files in his briefcase, then slipped his hand into mine.
Let's get some dinner.
Dinner? With me? And did he notice he was holding my hand? My pulse sped up as my heart battled with my head over going to dinner. Heart. It's just a meal we have to eat. Head. Right, like I'm buying that. Heart. His hand feels all warm and cozy. Head. Yeah, but what about Amanda's hand, or whoever else he might be dating? Heart. Good point. I cleared my throat. Just to be clear, this dinner would be as friends, right? As he led me out of the building, he turned and smiled.
Of course.
but he didn't let go of my hand. 45 minutes later, we'd picked up takeout from Cafe Bernardo in Midtown, then headed south on Highway 99 in Ethan's SUV. The music was low, but on a light rock station I often listened to. Unfortunately, the relaxing tunes did nothing to soothe my nerves. Why had Ethan held my hand? More importantly, why had I let him? And why were we having dinner together, although people had to eat? And I did love Cafe Bernardo. Still, there was nothing history-related about sharing a meal together. Did this mean he was interested in me? If so, why the sudden change? We exited the freeway and the city lights of Elk Grove disappeared behind us. Since I have no idea where you're taking me, I feel it's only fair to ask if you have an axe in the trunk. With his hands on the steering wheel, he stole a quick glance at me.
No axe.
I watched the sunset over the open fields on the left side of the road as we headed into Wilton. Machete? He chuckled.
The only things in the back are golf clubs and a case of wine.
A golf club makes a great weapon, I pointed out.
You're safe with me.
His eyes were on the road, but he reached for my hand and laced his fingers through mine.
Why are you so nervous?
Millions of flutters danced in my belly. Because this feels like a date.
Would that be so bad?
He asked, seriously. More like so dangerous. Yes.
Then it's not a date.
His voice was calm and sure, but his thumb brushed back and forth over the top of my hand in a way that sent tingles through me. Ethan was holding my hand. I didn't hate it exactly, but I didn't want to like it either. I swallowed, but couldn't make myself pull away from him. Where are we going? And don't say on an errand, because I already know that part. He turned right down a desolate road where the mailboxes were few and far between.
To my friend James's house. He's another associate at the firm. I'm dropping off the case of wine.
Thinking of the obvious, I asked, "Why didn't you give it to him at work?" Giving my hand a little squeeze, he released it, then used both hands to turn down a gravel driveway.
He took the week off. He's staying at his girlfriend's tonight, but tomorrow they're taking the boat out, and he's going to propose. This is their favorite wine, and I thought it would be a fun surprise for them.
Wow, that was so thoughtful and nice. Men just weren't this freaking perfect, though. Ethan had to have some kind of angle. Not that it mattered, since he was only a friend and this wasn't a date. It also didn't matter that Rach had left me a voicemail earlier saying she'd gone through Noah's entire apartment and found nothing suspicious whatsoever. Ethan pulled up to the side of the house next to the boat and turned the engine off. Leaving the keys in the ignition, he popped the back.
Hang here for a sec while I take the wine up.
The music wafted through the speakers and a familiar love song came on. When I found myself humming along, I bopped the button to turn it off. What was Ethan doing to me? My heart battled with my head again. Head, we need clear boundaries. Heart, but Ethan's so sweet, let's go for it. Head, we've been wrong before. Heart, maybe this time you're wrong for holding back. Head, actually that does seem like a logical possibility. Just as I reached for the handle on my door, Ethan opened it. He helped me up, and when I was standing, we were way too close. My eyes were level with where his tie had been, but he'd taken it off and unbuttoned the collar. He smelled clean, like laundry soap. I had the urge to nuzzle his neck and breathe him in. Instead, I ducked back into the car and grabbed his keys from the ignition.
Ready?
He pushed my door closed behind me, then opened the back passenger door and retrieved the bag of takeout. Taking a step forward, he crunched across the gravel toward the back of the boat. I followed close behind. This isn't the secret, is it? He gestured for me to climb the ladder first.
Are you asking to see it?
No, I said quickly. His forehead wrinkled and he shook his head.
Too bad, you're gonna love it.
I waved a hand as if I couldn't care less, even as I racked my brain. Stolen stacks of cash, a letter from a stalker. Wait, why would I supposedly love that? I was losing it. Less than a minute later, we were on the boat in Ethan's friend's side yard, basically in the middle of nowhere. The sun was almost done setting, so the dim light cast a rusty yellow glow across the horizon. I eyed the case of wine he'd set on the floor. "This is your boat, I take it? We're not breaking and entering?" He laughed, then pulled our pasta containers out of the bag.
"Yes, it's mine. I own it with James and another guy from the office. Do you like it?"
What's not to like? Instead of a ski boat like Noah had, Ethan owned a pontoon boat, which was bigger and more plush. As plush as you could get and still be water-resistant anyway. I walked around, checking things out, then came back to where Ethan had set the table.
"We keep the boat here because James has the most space in his yard."
Pouring red wine into 2 clear plastic cups, he gestured toward the nearest bench.
"Have a seat."
My feet refused to move. "You paid for dinner. That makes this a date." He shook his head, then set the bottle on the small table.
"We've bought each other's tickets before. You can get dinner next time."
My tummy rumbled, so I relented. Fine. The meal was delicious, as always. Loved Cafe Bernardo. Our conversation was easy. We mostly talked about things we'd viewed on the History Channel but would love to see in real life. Like the Duomo and the Ponte Vecchio for me and the Great Pyramid of Giza for Ethan. While he refilled our cups, then gathered the trash together, I rolled onto my belly on the bench. "This is so comfy, I could sleep here." Ethan smiled, a wicked glint in his eye.
"Want to?"
The thought was enticing. I meant theoretically.
"Me too."
The smirk he wore told me otherwise, and goosebumps prickled along my neck. Setting the trash bag aside, he sat down on the floor next to me, leaning his right side against what I assumed was some kind of storage cabinet. He took a sip of wine.
"How's the career search going?"
Propped on my elbows, I sipped my own wine, then peered up at him. I've filled out 3 very long questionnaires from Career Crush on my background, interests, work experience, and so on. I still need to write a report for today's task and turn that in, but I also have a lead on something new. He rested his arms around his knees and held his cup just under its rim.
"Tell me."
I lifted my cup to my lips, then swallowed the rich, spicy liquid. The human resources manager may be giving notice at the place where I'm temping. I'm qualified and she thinks highly of me, so my search might be over, finally. Changing careers makes me feel like I'm drowning and need the right job to save me.
"I've got just the thing to help you."
Setting his cup down, he reached into the cabinet, pulled out a bright red and white life preserver, and put it around me.
"Now you can save yourself."
I burst out laughing. "Except we're not in the water."
"Think of it as symbolic, since you said you were drowning from your career pursuit."
He sat down again, closer this time, his brown eyes staring into mine.
"Want to tell me why you began this search in the first place?"
I studied my wine, then lifted my lashes. It's simple. I can't help people when I have bad judgment myself. He stared at me a moment, then his eyes sparked in understanding.
"Because of Jake."
It wasn't a question, so I didn't answer. Just took another sip of wine and shrugged. His jaw tightened, then he looked up into the sky as if studying the blanket of stars that had appeared. Next, he took a slow, steadying breath and turned back to me.
"My high school sweetheart and I were together 7 years. For 2 of the 3 years in college, she had another boyfriend, and I never knew."
An ache formed in my throat. "You both went away to different colleges?" He nodded.
"One day I thought everything was fine. The next, I'd driven all night for a surprise visit, and when I got there, she wasn't alone."
"I'm sorry. That must have been awful." Bringing my hands together, I fingered the bottom of my glass. "That's different than my situation, though." His brows quirked.
"How?"
I gestured with my free hand. "You were young. It wasn't day to day. You didn't study human behavior for a living."
"It still hurt."
He cut me off, his voice tight.
"I got played and doubted myself.
I scoffed. How could you doubt yourself? He leaned close. How could I not? Unable to believe he'd asked such a crazy question, I blurted. Because she was the skank. You're perfect. He blinked as if surprised. Then he ran his thumb along my cheek. So are you. My skin tingled where he touched me, and I stared up into his deep brown eyes that simmered, focused completely on me. I knew this non-date hadn't been a good idea. I blamed that look, which clearly did wild things to me, because I sat up, tossed the life preserver aside, then snaked my hand around his neck. I leaned close, an inch away from him, and watched his eyes darken. Then I pressed my mouth to his. As soon as our lips touched, tingles spread across my chest. Suddenly I felt free, like nothing mattered other than Ethan's lips against mine. Then his mouth parted, his tongue connecting with mine, sending an electric current straight through my belly. He tasted of spicy wine, the flavor delicious and addicting. I needed more. I knew I should stop, but really, what would a few more kisses hurt? His fingers laced through my hair, while his mouth devoured mine with undivided attention, sending tingles to places where, I'm sorry, but friends just didn't go. Although I seriously wanted to. This is so past the friend zone, I mumbled, pointing out the obvious. He pulled back slightly, searching my eyes. Do you want to stop? I didn't hesitate. No. Good. He chuckled, then captured my mouth with his. This time more urgently. Oh, yes, more. I couldn't catch my breath with his tongue melting with mine in a way that felt so right. It shot all kinds of warning signals flashing in my mind. Kissing Ethan felt good. Too good. I wanted to savor every second of it. But it could only end in one way. And the feelings I had for Ethan were way stronger than I'd had with Jake. Since Jake had devastated me, I couldn't imagine what the pain would be like from Ethan. I pulled back. Wait. Brushing his hand against my cheek, his lids were heavy as he studied me. What's wrong? Shaking my head, I had to force the words out. I can't do this. His eyes peered into mine. Why not, honey? My chest ached, and a big part of me wanted to give in. I can't go through all that again. I just can't. He leaned his forehead against mine. I'd never hurt you. I wanted to believe him. Really, really wanted to, but I'm sorry. Forcing myself away from him, I popped off the bench, then discarded the empty wine cup in the trash. Ethan came up behind me, put his hands on my hips, and rested his cheek next to mine. Talk to me. Even though I wanted to melt against him, I wasn't sure if I could trust him. Wasn't sure if I could trust my own feelings for him, no matter how amazing he seemed. I turned and held my hand up. Just take me home, please. A flicker of hurt flashed across his face, like he didn't understand what had changed when I'd so clearly been into him. He ran his finger along my jawline. If that's what you need. Avoiding his eyes, I nodded. Thank you. We drove back to Sac in silence. Ethan may seem flawless, but I'd been a terrible judge of character before, and we all knew history tended to repeat itself. Ethan was just too tempting for me. From now on, I needed to stay away from him. Completely away from him. Chapter 5. The next day at noon, Ellen, Rach, and I sat on a red velvet bench at Cafe Mattia waiting for a table. It had been hard denying my feelings for Ethan before. Now that I'd kissed him, it was impossible, especially when I kept replaying those kisses in my head. Feeling desperate, I decided to level with my friends about what happened with Ethan last night. Just as I opened my mouth to spill all, Rach grabbed my arm. I found something, she said, staring at me wide-eyed. Noah is the one who contacted Kate, not the other way around. Ellen tossed me a hostile glance. Feeling guilty, I swallowed. Did Noah tell you she'd called him? The hostess announced my name, and we paused our conversation until she seated us at a secluded table in the corner. Rach sat down, then shook her head. He didn't say who initiated the dinner, but don't you think it's odd? If she was really coming into town for work, wouldn't she have let him know? Witnessing her paranoia felt like looking into a mirror. Was mistrusting Ethan this irrational? Kate could have posted online that she had business in Sac, then Noah called. Knowing who initiated the call isn't evidence that he's doing anything sketchy. I know it's not enough evidence, Rachel swallowed, then glanced up at us slowly. That's why I cracked the password on his credit card account. Ellen's eyes bulged. You what? My mouth dropped open and I covered it with my hand. Seemed like I'd unwittingly unleashed the private investigator in Rach. How did you manage that? Probably not important, but my curiosity had gotten the best of me. Rach wore a sinister look that I actually found a little intimidating. He only has 2 email accounts and he used his home email address. His password was harder to narrow down. Took me until 2 a.m. to nail it. It's his favorite sports team plus his birth date backwards. I hid behind my 1-page menu to ward off the daggers Ellen was shooting me with her eyes. Although I was the unlucky recipient of Ellen's scowl, I had to agree with her. I'd created a monster, and it was scary. The waitress came over and we ordered the usual. I cleared my throat, thinking of how to say this gently. I know I told you to keep your eyes open, but cracking Noah's password might be going overboard. Imagine how you'd feel if he did that to you. I think you should try talking to him instead. Ellen let out a sigh of relief. See, I told you, Rach, you've gone off the deep end and need to come back to reality, like Kristen finally has. Her expression told me she wasn't too convinced of my sanity, though, and I was insulted. What makes you think I've gone off the deep end? A horse laugh escaped her mouth. I don't think you've dived off. I know it. Gina knows it, and Rachel knows it too. My mouth dropped open indignantly, and I rolled my head in Rachel's direction. You too? Rach put a hand to her chest. Well, you seem like a different person since you found out about Jake. My friends had turned on me, that's all there was to it. I'm the same person, just more cautious. You're hiding. Ellen's tone was gentle when she said this. It's like you're afraid to make any decisions in case it's the wrong one. I leaned back in my chair and crossed my arms. 2 days before my 30th birthday and I find out what my friends really think of me. We think the world of you, girl. Rach seemed offended that I'd think otherwise. Why else would we tell you to snap out of it? My brows came together. What? It was Ellen who spoke. Start making decisions that move your life forward. We've all been screwed over at one time or another, but it's like you've given up. I shook my head. I'm rebuilding my life. By keeping a distance from what you care about. Ellen put a hand on my arm. Your career. Dating. Straightening my spine, I said, I went on a date last night. Both of their jaws nearly hit the floor. What? With who? Ellen said. I bit my lip. Ethan? Really, it was more of a non-date. My diversion had worked, but they seemed way too excited about my weak mistake. What's a non-date? Rach blinked as if confused. Is this some kind of dating foreplay thing, like when Gina and Chris pretended to be girlfriend and boyfriend just because they couldn't admit they were hot for each other? No, I shook my head adamantly. It was just dinner and wine on a boat, and we may have kissed. Rach squealed. Ellen's hands flew to her cheeks. How was it? I'm not doing it again. We paused for a moment while the waitress set our meals down in front of us. Thank you, Ellen said, then wrinkled her nose. Not good, huh? Remembering the feel of Ethan's mouth on mine gave me chills. Oh, it was amazing. Her brows came together. Then why won't you go out with him again? My eyes burned. So I don't have to stay up all night cracking the password to his emails. It was his credit card account, Rach pointed out. Whatever. I imagined Ethan cheating on me and my heart broke a little, and I didn't even love him yet.
I trust Henry with all my heart.
Ellen's green eyes stared at me first, then at Rach, and finally her mouth curved upward.
I'm pregnant.
Rach's squeal was piercing.
You are?
Congratulations, I said, watching Rach throw her arms around Ellen. I couldn't help but think about all the ups and downs Ellen had gone through with men. So many she'd resorted to scanning endless profiles on Sacramento's detailed dating website to try to find her perfect match. Then she'd met Henry at the most unlikely place, a dog obedience class. For Ellen and Henry, it had been love at first sight. 4 months later, they were married. Now she was having his baby. Tears filled my eyes. I wanted to believe they would last. Rising from my chair, I leaned over and gave her a squeeze. How far along are you? She opened her purse, pulled out a small piece of paper, and handed it to me.
8 weeks. That's baby's first ultrasound.
Rach made a cooing sound. So that's why you had a doctor's appointment yesterday. I can't believe you didn't tell us sooner. Ellen twisted a strand of her dirty blonde hair.
Henry wanted to wait.
I stared at the picture of what looked like a blurry white fan which illuminated a black oval, encasing a long clump of fuzzy white. Your baby looks like a peanut. Ellen laughed.
He really does.
Rach's eyes widened. I thought you couldn't tell the sex for months. You can't, I said, remembering all the pregnant couples I'd counseled, who were arguing because one person wanted to know the sex and the other didn't.
Kristen's right.
Ellen gave a contented smile, then we spent the rest of lunch chatting about her baby plans and how Henry kept massaging her feet every night despite her telling him over and over that they weren't even swollen yet. Henry was a sweet guy, and in many ways he reminded me of Ethan, who I could totally picture doting on his pregnant wife. My mind immediately conjured up images of Ethan massaging my feet, his eyes intent and focused on me. On the walk back to the office, my imagination played more tricks on me. A picture flashed in my mind of Ethan, me, and a dark-haired little girl with mocha brown eyes. We were on Ethan's boat, motoring across a lake. We were happy. My throat tightened, thinking of all the pain I'd been through last December. Then I remembered Ethan putting the red and white life preserver around me last night so I could rescue myself from drowning. My stomach sank. If only they made tiny flotation devices to save the heart.
Your list idea worked.
Chloe's smile radiated as she sat behind her desk just before 5 o'clock that day. My dream had never been about a career. I'd worked hard in college and after to be able to support myself, but what I'd always dreamed of was having a family. Being with my kids and my husband is my priority. I gave notice today. We're moving to Oregon in a month. I'm really happy for you. A warm feeling flowed through me, the kind I used to get when one of my patients had a breakthrough. Is now a good time for me to explain what an excellent human resources manager I would make? Chloe opened a folder and pulled out a piece of paper.
I've already spoken with Rich Woodward. The job's yours if you accept our offer.
Thank you. I scanned 2 duplicate documents, noting the company's expectations, the 2-year commitment, and impressive salary. This was a very good opportunity with an awesome company, which was exactly what I'd been looking for. Should I sign it now?
Absolutely.
She handed me a pen. I'll interview another temp for the reception desk, but I can have Ginger fill in if need be, so you and I can start training on Monday.
I want to make this transition as smooth as possible for the company, although, legally, you have 3 days to change your mind.
All right. I signed and dated the acceptance letter, thinking about how odd her tone had been when she'd advised me of my legal rights. I handed her back one of the signed letters, thanked her again, then headed back down to the reception desk. I should have been elated that I'd found a new career, one with a generous salary to boot. But instead I felt numb. Ethan sent me a text asking how I was doing today. I wanted to tell him about my new job, but I needed to keep my distance from him. I waited the rest of the day for the excitement over my new career to hit me. It never did. When I got to Totally Fit that night, I gave my leg muscles a break by avoiding the weights before Zumba class. My legs were grateful, I knew, because after dancing an hour of cha-cha, salsa, and even hip-hop, they didn't crumble beneath me. Mel waved me over as she chatted with a woman after class. "Kristen, I'd like to introduce you to my sister, Caitlin." "Hi, Caitlin." I smiled at the perky redhead, noting that Mel had referred to her as her stepsister when we were alone, but as her sister in front of her. Interesting dynamic, and I was curious to learn more. Step relationships tended to be more intricate, and human behavior fascinated me. Although I'm sure explaining medical benefits to new hires could be interesting as well. Or overseeing that the company adheres to employee safety laws, since carpal tunnel can be very painful. And coordinating vacation schedules might be fun, depending on where the employee was headed. Not that I'd get to go with them or discuss what historical sites they saw as part of my job description. No wonder I wasn't jumping for joy at my new career. Guess what? Mel's eyes lit up and she put a hand on my arm as she spoke. My bad dating streak seems to be over. Brad and I had an amazing time at the River Cats game yesterday, and he's taking me out for a late dinner tonight. He's so dreamy. That's great. It seemed way too early to tell if she'd broken her pattern of dating commitment phobes, but I didn't want to burst her bubble. If her own behavior's the same, she's likely to get the same results as before. "So, you like him a lot?" "They adore each other," Caitlin put in, her hands coming together against her chest as if knowing they were an ideal match after only one date. "I saw them in action earlier, and he just gives off that good guy vibe. Plus, he's got a body like Vin Diesel. Yum." I threw my head back and laughed. "That cinches it, huh?" "Speaking of yum, I'm gonna get cleaned up for my date. Wish me luck." Mel wiggled her fingers at us, then bounced off. "She has such a zest for life, doesn't she?" Caitlin gazed after Mel as if she admired her sister, or stepsister as the case may be. "It takes major effort for me to exert half that energy." "Mel's definitely got spunk," I agreed, then checked the clock. "I'm going to hit the treadmill for a few minutes for an extra cool down. It was nice meeting you, Caitlin." She gave me a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "You too." When I arrived at the treadmills, I scanned the walkers and runners for a certain tall, dark, and muscular guy I'd rather avoid. Why did Totally Fit have to have the best location and rates in downtown Sac? Sigh. Luckily, Ethan was nowhere to be seen. The twinge of disappointment I felt annoyed me, and I made myself walk 30 minutes instead of 15 as punishment. His not being here was a good thing, and while, okay, there was a massive amount of physical attraction, that didn't mean anything. It was just chemistry. It's not like I was going to act on it. Again, I mean. So why couldn't I stop thinking about him? I tapped the button to end my cool down. As long as I kept my head on straight, I was good. I turned to get off the treadmill and nearly slammed into the man waiting in line. He put his hands out to steady me, and when I looked up to say thanks, my voice caught in my throat. "Hi," Ethan said, his deep brown eyes peering down at me. I swallowed. "Hi." He eyed me up and down in a way that made me wish I'd put on more than my fluorescent yellow sports top and tight black shorts, which, while comfortable for dance class, made me feel way too naked under Ethan's gaze. There was a chill in his tone when he said, "You didn't return my text." Hearing the hurt in his voice melted my defenses. "I'm sorry." He stepped aside so the next person in line could claim my vacated treadmill. "I don't want you to avoid me. We're still friends, right?" Instead of reaffirming I wanted to move to a galaxy far, far away from him, I said, "Of course." The tension in his face relaxed. "I'm glad. I'd hate to think we couldn't hang out anymore because of one slip." "A slip? What was that supposed to mean?" Not that I thought kissing me should have rocked his world, but Actually, yes, it should have. It'd sure rocked mine. I gritted my teeth and shrugged. No big deal.
Good.
He started toward a treadmill that had just opened up.
I'll see you soon then.
Okay, I said as he walked off. How infuriating. Here I'd been unwittingly picturing our future together all afternoon and most of this evening, and he thought of it as a slip? Whatever. I started toward the locker room to shower, then spun around and marched over to where Ethan had just started a slow jog. I tapped him on the arm, which was tantalizingly hard. He looked down at me and frowned.
Did you forget something?
Yeah, I forgot to make my kiss memorable, apparently. My brows came together. No, but as a friend, I think it's unfair that you've been dangling this secret over me all week. You need to tell me what it is. The corner of his mouth turned up.
No.
Arg! When had Ethan become so irritating? Why not? He shrugged.
I'll show you, but only when you finally admit you're dying to see it.
I inhaled deeply. Ethan Harrison was the most infuriating friend ever, but I could play his game. Not only am I dying to see it, but I would strip down to my underwear and run naked through this gym to see it. Heat sizzled in his eyes, telling me our kisses had affected him, and he must have swallowed his tongue because he only made a choking noise in response. Ha. Great, I'll meet you in the lobby after your workout. Satisfied because he was gaping after me, I went to the locker room to take a shower. A cold one. After my shower in the locker room, I dressed and was just about to zip out to the lobby when I heard a soft mewing sound behind me. A row of lockers down, I found a slender redhead sitting on a bench with her head in her hands. Caitlin? Her head snapped up and she swiped her cheeks.
Sorry, I didn't know anyone else was in here.
Yeah, there were several showers going right now and women lined up at the mirror grooming. What's wrong? She shrugged helplessly.
Nothing, I'm fine.
Yeah, I'd said that plenty of times myself. You can talk to me. Her eyes watered.
I got laid off. I've been trying to find work, but there is absolutely nobody in this entire city who's hiring in HR right now.
My entire body froze. HR? She nodded.
Human resources. I was the HR manager at my old office. I loved my job, but the company combined the position with the executive assistants in order to save costs.
A boulder formed in my stomach, and I dropped down on the bench next to her. You loved it, huh?
Passionately.
She sniffed.
I'd been working with the company for 4 years, knew the job inside and out, and then when they didn't need me anymore, they let me go.
I felt my forehead wrinkle. That's awful.
Well, they did give me 2 weeks severance, but that's long gone. Unfortunately, I don't have much in savings, so I'll have to move back in with my parents until I can find a job, I don't know, scrubbing toilets or something.
Listening to this girl pour her heart out to me and hearing how much she loved human resources, a calmness settled over me. I knew what I had to do. Putting a hand on Caitlin's arm, I said, I know of an HR position that's available. And just like that, I was drowning again. Chapter 6. You're sure I can't help? I sat on a bar stool at Ethan's house, peering over the island countertop as he diced green peppers and onions for dinner. I know I'd decided not to hang around Ethan, but why should I miss out on knowing this scintillating secret because of a few delicious kisses? I'm a grown woman and I can resist temptation. Otherwise, I wouldn't be a size 4 when my roommate stocks our kitchen with things like cheese puffs, donuts, cream cheese, apple fritters, and a freezer full of cookie dough ice cream. Thank goodness Ethan was a health nut like me. It'll be nice to eat a well-balanced meal without having to watch Gina chow on chips with nacho cheese sauce.
I've got the kitchen under control, but thanks.
Ethan chopped with precision, then dropped the veggies into a pan.
Finish telling me about the job you got, then gave away.
I'd rather hear you dish about this top secret whatever it is and why you never show anyone. I sipped the ice-cold sparkling mineral water he'd poured me. At least tell me if it's an animal, vegetable, or mineral. He tilted his head to the side as he moved the spatula around the pan.
Technically, it could be considered 2 of the 3. Now I've answered a question. Your turn.
How could it be 2 of them? I protested, then sighed when he gave me a look, reminding me it was my turn. Fine. The HR manager position was a really great offer, but I wasn't excited about it. Caitlin has more experience and loves human resources, so she's better matched for it. He tossed a tortilla on another pan.
What about you?
Nice try. I raised an eyebrow at him. My turn. The corners of his mouth tipped up.
Go.
I watched him pull 2 plates out of the cupboard and cursed myself for checking out his mighty fine backside. Why do you keep your secret all hush-hush?
There could be a question of ownership.
He scooped the tortillas onto the plates, then did the same with the sautéed veggies.
If word got out, it might get taken away from me, and I'm not going to risk that happening.
My eyes bulged. It's stolen?
It was a gift, and now I get 2 questions in a row.
He carried our plates to the dining table and called back to me.
Could you grab some silverware out of the drawer to the left of the sink?
Sure. I hopped off the bar stool and opened the drawer to the left of the sink. No silverware, only a messy pile of receipts, papers, and who knew what else. Even though Ethan might possibly be hiding something, it felt wrong invading his privacy. Instead of taking the opportunity to snoop, I forced my eyes away and opened the next drawer. Got them. When I turned around, I caught him watching me. What? He paused as if trying to decide something. Then he said,
You stopped when you had the wrong drawer. Why?
My stomach clenched, but I walked toward him and took a seat anyway. I thought about rifling through it. His brows quirked in that cute way they did when I'd confused him.
What for?
I gave him a duh look. To see what you're hiding. The muscles on his jaw tightened.
Are you going to check my phone next?
Hearing my words thrown back in my face was like a slap. You asked what I was thinking, and I was just being honest. It's not like I actually did it.
Here.
He reached into his pants pocket, pulled out his phone, and handed it to me.
Knock yourself out.
Holding his smartphone felt like owning his world. The pathway to anything I'd want to know about Ethan had to be in this phone. Photos, documents, text messages. My mouth was practically watering. Then I thought of Ellen as she'd touched her stomach and told me she trusted Henry with her heart. Then I thought of Jake. I tapped into Ethan's photos first. Looks like someone went hiking last weekend.
We did a 10-mile hike at Point Reyes.
He lifted his fajita as if to take a bite.
Gorgeous views.
I can see that, I said, freezing on a picture of Ethan shirtless at the top of a cliff. The California coastline below him wasn't bad either. The way the blue-gray water reached for the shore with white foamy fingers appeared ethereal. I want to go there. He didn't hesitate.
Name the date.
You mean go together? My insides glowed at the thought, and I considered it. We'd have to coordinate calendars.
You're holding my calendar,
he said, then popped the last bite of his fajita into his mouth. My lashes lifted. So I should just write myself in?
Any day you want.
His eyes met mine with a sizzling look that shot zings through me. I gulped, wanting him to save every date for me. Tempting. Way too tempting. Instead of answering, I slid my finger across the screen, switching to a photo of some guy, not half as hot as Ethan, giving Ethan's camera the finger. Charming. He laughed.
That's James. We had a bet on who'd reach the peak first. He lost.
I smiled. Men. Thinking that James could be on his knee proposing as we sat here, my heart rate kicked up as I considered what a relationship with Ethan would be like. It'd be different than with Jake. For one, Ethan and I had the same interests. We also laughed together, which Jake and I rarely did. And Ethan had told me to pick any date, unlike Jake, who used to tell me when he was available. Was Ethan trustworthy? Like Henry hopefully was? Ethan had handed me his phone/world, after all. My heart zipped from a trot to a gallop as I decided to go hiking with him. I opened my mouth to suggest Sunday when, suddenly, Ethan's cell phone vibrated in my hand. A local number displayed on the screen. I'm guessing it's for you. Ethan gave me a look I couldn't read, like he didn't want the call, then finally took the phone.
This is Ethan. Who? Oh, right. Hi, Amanda.
With that one name, my heart stopped, and I remembered the girl from Ethan's office who'd hung on every word he said. She was calling him now, after 8 o'clock? How'd she get his number? Alarms went off in my head, and I couldn't hear Ethan's conversation through the mental sirens. I picked at what was left of my dinner, which felt like coming back up my throat. Finally, Ethan hung up and set his phone down.
That was Tiffany's friend. She's having some legal problems she wants to talk to me about.
I stared at him, my heart stealing over. You keep late office hours? Ignoring my snarky comment, his forehead wrinkled.
She wants to meet me after work tomorrow, at a bar.
You should go. I stood, picked up my plate, then carried it to the kitchen. She seems nice. For a girl who was using some kind of legal jam to make a date with a hot lawyer. He came up behind me and leaned over my shoulder so his mouth was close to my ear.
I'd rather go out with you,
he said. My heart flipped, but then I remembered the weird look Ethan made when I'd handed him the phone and wondered what he was hiding. I'm not dating right now. His eyes searched mine.
I'll wait until you're ready. What do you think I've been doing the last 4 months?
I gaped at him. Are you saying
that I'm crazy about you? Yes.
He stepped forward, then lifted my chin with his finger.
And you feel the same way about me.
My heart pounded in my chest. What makes you say that? He tilted his head, his eyes gazing at me with all their intensity.
You told me when a girl worth dating liked me, I'd know. Save a real date for me, Kristen. Friday night.
A rush of dizziness overtook me and I grabbed onto the island countertop to steady myself. I already told you I can't go through the turmoil again. He slipped his hands around my waist.
It wouldn't be like that with us.
I don't know that. I stepped back, feeling like he was asking me to walk the plank with a herd of man-eating sharks circling below. That red and white life preserver wouldn't do much to save my heart from being ripped apart. It's too much, Ethan. I've already told you. His expression tensed.
Kristen.
It's getting late and I have to work early. My throat tightened. Do you still want to show me the secret? His eyes focused on me, dark and intense.
You're the only person I've ever wanted to show.
And with that, he led me to his bedroom. The secret was a person, I decided. Although technically it was a thing. Ethan's face rose from the marble block as if trying to break free of a prison, determination and focus in every muscle. He stared back at me with that look of his, simmering and intense, his expression frozen forever in luminous white marble. I ran my finger along his strong cheekbone, cold, hard, smooth. It's beautiful.
My mother's family worked for the Medici dynasty in Florence and in Rome.
Ethan's voice filled with emotion.
Michelangelo's creativity had been repressed while painting the Sistine Chapel. The history behind this sculpture is that he'd taken a liking to one of the Medici gardeners and sculpted him from pure inspiration.
Michelangelo? Amazing. This sculpture rivaled the face of Michelangelo's David. Literally. I stared at the timeless, handsome man in awe. What was the gardener's name?
Giovanni, which means John in English.
Ethan's voice tightened.
My full name is John Ethan Harrison.
Tears filled my eyes, unable to believe something this breathtaking had been hidden away for hundreds of years. You said there's a question of who owns it?
Michelangelo gifted it to Giovanni. The Carrara marble he used to sculpt it may or may not have been given to Michelangelo by the Medici family.
Ethan shrugged.
Even if we could prove Michelangelo owned the marble, what evidence do we have that he gave it to Giovanni, a poor servant?
I traced around the eyes. He looks just like you. Ethan nodded.
Even if that could help in court, and I'm not saying it would, if word got out, I'd never be able to keep it here at home.
Where it belongs, I sighed. You were right about the secret. I do love it.
I'm right about other things, too.
He peered at me with those Giovanni eyes.
Give us a chance, Kristen. A real date. Tomorrow night.
My heart wanted to scream yes, but my head made me pull back. You should go out with Amanda. A flicker of hurt crossed his face.
You'd be fine if I did?
I'd be crushed, but I couldn't tell him that. Then he'd know how close I was to caving, and I needed to stay strong. Time to go. I slipped my purse over my shoulder, then headed toward the front door. I'll be focusing on me and starting a new career.
A career you won't care about,
he bit out, surprising me with his harsh tone. I whirled around. That's not true, I said, although deep inside I had doubts. His forehead creased.
You belong in counseling, and you're running away from the profession you love, just like you're running away from me.
My voice tightened. I'm not running away from anything. More like walking at a fast pace. He shook his head.
Don't turn your back on what you care about because of that dirtbag. You have a passion for therapy, Kristen. Fight for it. Fight for those people who need you.
Good night, Ethan. Without glancing back at him, I slipped outside and yanked the door shut behind me. I hurried to my car, drove home, and my eyes burned the entire way. As I pulled into my garage and parked, the ache in my chest grew bigger and bigger until it overpowered me. I dropped my head on the steering wheel and unleashed the pain, hot tears streaming down my face as I sobbed. Ethan's words were a grisly reminder of everything I couldn't have. Didn't he get that I wanted to counsel? But my clients deserved a counselor who could help them, not someone who doubted herself. Remaining in my car until my eyes were dry and raw, I watched each hour pass on the clock as Ethan's brutal comments circled my brain. I'd always been a woman who strove for what she wanted, not ran from it. I had to find a way to be her again. Unfortunately, I hadn't the first clue how to do that. Thursday night had been a nightmare, and Friday morning felt like a horrifying sequel. I'd withdrawn my acceptance letter for the HR position. By noon, Chloe had interviewed Caitlin, run a background check, and hired her. Caitlin and Chloe were ecstatic. Unfortunately for me, Chloe had contacted the new permanent receptionist last night and coaxed her into starting Monday morning earlier than she'd previously been able to. So I was out of my temp job. To say I was stressed would be putting it mildly. Everything hung on my career crush results now. Noah had agreed to let me use his office during the lunch hour again, so I rode the elevator up, then knocked on his door.
Come in,
he called out. Hey, I slipped my head in, wondering why he hadn't left for lunch yet. Is it still all right to use your office for my career counseling class? My last test. Then I'd find out how to move on with my life.
Yes.
He leaned back in his office chair, hands folded across his lap.
But first, would you close the door? I need to talk to you.
His tone sounded tense. Concerned, I shut the door, then took a seat in front of his desk. What's going on? His blue eyes peered at me, and I noticed the deep circles under them.
Rach and I had a huge fight last night.
I cringed. I'm sorry. He raked his hands through his hair.
She's upset about my dinner with Kate, and I thought of canceling it. If seeing my ex makes Rach that uncomfortable, then it's just not worth it, you know?
Yeah, but I didn't know Mr. Sportsman had a sensitive side. good idea. Call it off." He steepled his hands in front of his chest.
"I was going to, but then you told me I should examine my own motivations."
I knew I shouldn't ask, but the deep-seated counselor inside me couldn't resist. "What were your motivations?"
"Next weekend is our 2-month anniversary, and I wanted to take Rach someplace special."
He looked a little shy about telling me that, which I actually found kind of adorable.
"But I paid cash for the boat, and I'm saving for a house."
Good with finances and sensitive. Huh. Impressive.
"A friend told me Kate was coming to Sac, so I called her to see if she could give me a deal on a weekend getaway through her work. She said to come by the hotel for dinner and she'd have some packages for me to choose from."
Confused, I tilted my head. "She knows you have a girlfriend?"
"Of course."
He sounded surprised I'd asked.
"Kate gets luxury deals dirt cheap, so after talking to you, I figured my motivations were good, so I should go through with the dinner. Now I'm not so sure."
I'd worried he'd been planning a hot hookup on the side. He'd really been arranging a romantic weekend for Rach? Oh, the guilt hit me. It hit me hard. My face went numb. "Noah, that's so thoughtful."
"Right?"
His brows came together then.
"I can understand it being a little awkward with my ex coming around, although Kate doesn't hold a candle to Rach. But she freaked out last night like she doesn't trust me. And I have to say, that really hurt."
And like that, I realized I'd done a very bad thing. Noah?" I swallowed. "Rach did want to talk to you about her insecurities. I kind of encouraged her not to." His jaw went slack.
"Why would you do that?"
I felt nauseous, but I owed Noah the truth. "You were cozying up to your ex at a hotel. Come on, Noah, you know how that looked. I didn't want her to get blindsided like I did." His eyes went wide like he'd found out his favorite baseball player had been transferred.
"You thought I'd cheat on Rach?"
I swallowed, not liking the answer. He shook his head.
"That's what you think of me."
"No, it's not." My voice was firm. "It's what I knew about Jake, and I'd applied it to every guy since I'd left him." My throat tightened, ashamed at the trouble I'd caused. "I'm sorry, Noah." He didn't answer, just brushed past the desk and out of the office, closing the door behind him. I didn't know if Noah would forgive me, but I had to find a way to make things right between Rach and him. Sitting alone in Noah's office, I pulled myself from my purse and considered phoning Ethan for advice. Then I stopped myself. What if he'd already called Amanda to go on that date? I wasn't sure I could take that. Besides, I needed to clean up this mess on my own. So I texted Rach. "Drinks, 5 p.m., just you and me. I'm buying." Chapter 7. Rach curled up on the sofa next to me in the lounge of the downtown Sheraton Grand. A gentleman took our drink orders, then she checked her watch. I've decided to return my new night vision binoculars. My eyes bulged. "Night vision goggles?" She nodded. "Noah's dinner with his exes tonight. I wanted to follow him and prove he's not playing around on me." Guilt seeped in. "What changed your mind?" "We had this huge fight last night." She slumped, the corners of her mouth turning down. I kind of insinuated that something might be going on between him and Kate." I sucked in a breath, knowing how much her accusation had hurt Noah. "What did he say?" Tears filled her eyes. "He left my apartment without a word, then ignored me all day. I wouldn't be surprised if he never talked to me again, and I don't blame him." "Oh, Rach." I put my hand over hers. She shook her head. "I don't like him having dinner with his ex, but he would never cheat on me. I handled this all wrong." Feeling guilty, my throat tightened. "This is my fault." Her brows quirked. "You've done nothing but try to help me." I shook my head, knowing that wasn't true. You were feeling insecure and you came to me for advice. I should have encouraged you to start a dialogue with Noah. Open up and ask the hard questions. That's what intimacy is about. A light bulb flashed above my head, and suddenly I knew this was exactly where I'd gone wrong with Jake. I'd never put my feelings out there by asking him things like, 1, how much freaking space does one person need? 2, why are your friends always too busy for me to meet them? Ditto on family. And 3, is a holiday together really so much to ask for after 8 months? If I'd spoken up, maybe I would have gotten a clue that half his free time was booked because he spent it with another woman. It felt so painfully obvious now. Sigh. Instead of advising that you talk to Noah, I suggested that he could be like Jake. My paranoia must have rubbed off on you. I'm really sorry, Rach. The waiter brought our drinks over, set them down, then disappeared. Rachel's jaw tightened. I was hurt that you didn't believe in Noah, but you didn't make me insecure. I did that on my own. I raised a brow. She sighed. I'm not saying your paranoia was particularly helpful, but like you said, I should have talked to Noah about how I felt. Instead, I went crazy trying to prove my insecurities were unfounded. Ding ding. The sound of my phone jerked me out of the conversation and my heart skipped a beat. Maybe Ethan was texting me because he decided not to go on that date with Amanda. I whipped my phone out, then flicked my finger across the screen, only to find a text from Noah. Is Rach with you? She's not answering her cell, and I need to talk to her. Something wrong? Rach asked. It's Noah. I showed her my cell screen, then texted him back. Yes, I'll tell her. With a wide-eyed stare, she picked up her drink, guzzled half, then held a tiny square napkin to her mouth. He's supposed to be meeting Kate right now. What do you think he wants? I held up my hand. Didn't we just talk about open communication? Call him and find out. Finally, I was giving good advice again. Oh, right. Her hands shook as she searched through her handbag for her cell. 3 missed calls. I didn't even hear it ring. Picking up my glass of wine, I waved at her. Just dial already. She tapped a couple buttons on her cell, then put it to her ear. Hey, Kristen said you were trying to get a hold of me? My shoulders tensed as I sipped my Sauvignon Blanc and studied Rachel's expression to see if the conversation was going well or not. Are you serious? Noah? Her eyes watered and met mine, but I sensed it wasn't in a bad way. Go have dinner with Kate immediately. Call me after, okay? I love you. Taking another sip of wine, I relaxed. Everything good? Rach put her phone away, then lifted her lashes. You're not going to believe this. He's been planning a surprise weekend for our 2-month anniversary at one of the Jeffries luxury hotels. He's only meeting with Kate because she's giving him a huge discount. Inside, I cheered. Really? He said the getaway was supposed to be a surprise, but if meeting up with her was going to make me this wiggy, then it wasn't worth it. Her eyes bulged so far I thought they'd pop out of her head. I'd been jealous when he'd been thinking of me the entire time. Isn't that silly? Men make us do crazy things. I laughed, but without humor. Look at me. I let Jake's betrayal ruin my confidence. No man is worth that. She picked up her glass and clinked it into mine. Agreed. Savoring the crisp flavor, I set my drink down, then looked at Rach seriously. You're not mad at me? Pshaw. She waved a hand in the air, her lips curving upward. What do I have to be angry about? I'm getting a fantastic weekend away with the man I love. Now, let's go upstairs so I can buy you a very expensive dinner to celebrate. I laughed. How can I say no to that? After dinner, I walked at a clip pace along the sidewalk toward the block where I'd parked my car, grateful that Rach and Noah had worked things out. I also couldn't believe I'd finally discovered how I'd missed the clues with Jake. I hadn't asked the hard, yet reasonable questions, which is what intimacy is all about, sharing your thoughts and who you are with your significant other, risking that they'll love the real you. Part of me had liked keeping Jake at a distance. It was safe. He'd only been able to deceive me because I'd willingly kept myself blind. I hadn't cared enough to open up with him. If I'd been that into Jake, then I wouldn't have had feelings for Ethan. The light at the crosswalk turned green, so I stepped off the curb and crossed the road. And I had been interested in Ethan. I still was. When I got home, Gina texted me that she was staying at Chris's tonight, so I had the house to myself. I curled up on the couch with my laptop and a bottle of sparkling mineral water, which was the same lemon flavor I'd had at Ethan's. Ethan. I wondered if he'd gone out with Amanda tonight, or if he was with her right now. The thought nauseated me, and I had the urge to text him. But what would I say? I sighed, then finished my last career crush survey and submitted all my documents to my career counselor. It's Career Crush's policy to complete their evaluation within 1 week after a client turns in all their reports. Instead of feeling good that I'd soon find out what career path I should be on, I felt a gaping hole in my chest. I picked up the envelope next to me and reread the document inside for the umpteenth time since I'd received it. 1 more week to renew my office lease. Closing my laptop, I turned off the lights and carried the renewal letter with me to bed. Instead of playing Adele or Kelly Clarkson, I tuned into my favorite light rock station. With my covers pulled up to my chin, I gripped the unsigned lease and let the music wash over me. A familiar love song came on, which played at Ellen's wedding. Ethan and I had danced slow and close to it, and I relived the moments in my mind until I could almost feel him against me. Snuggling into my pillow, my mind drifted to the dinner on his boat. How we'd talked, laughed, and especially how we'd kissed. I knew, without a doubt, Ethan would never hide anything from me. He was a man who adored his sister, so much I could feel the love between them. He was a guy who gave his friend a case of wine when he was about to propose in order to make the moment more special. He'd handed me his phone to reassure me when I'd felt insanely insecure. And he trusted me with a secret he treasured. He'd also put himself out there, revealing his feelings. He was not a guy who'd let me keep him at arm's length, and that scared me. But he might be so worth it. Unless he'd moved on with Amanda, that is. Shoot, I'd practically pushed him to her. Gritting my teeth, I covered my face with my hands. Obviously, I was an idiot. Happy birthday! Gina sailed through the front door as I was sitting at our table, eating my oatmeal breakfast. She gave me a hug. This is for you. You didn't have to get me anything. I squeezed her back, unwrapped the small square box, then stared at the black billiard-style cue ball inside. Magic 8 Ball? Remember these? Gina proceeded to pull it out of the box. Ask the ball a yes or no question, give it a shake for good luck, then check the window for the answer. Try it. Okay. Making sure the window faced down, I inhaled deeply. Did Gina borrow my favorite white shawl last night without asking? Gina pursed her lips. I shook the ball, turned it over, and read the words, "Signs point to yes." It went with my outfit. She shrugged, then bounced to the refrigerator and poured herself a glass of milk. You've been having trouble making decisions lately, so I thought this would be fun. I didn't realize you'd use it against me. My mouth turned upward. So the gift giver should be exempt from the ball? Exactly. Gina laughed. Don't forget Chris is picking us up for the lake at 11. Ellen and Henry are catching a ride with Rach and Noah. Also, Ginger was down in the dumps yesterday, so I invited her to come along. Hope that's okay. Sure, I said, wondering what was wrong with Ginger. Since I had about 2 hours to kill before we left, I flipped open my laptop and checked my emails. A few birthday wishes from friends, advertising from my favorite stores, spam from places that wanted me to enlarge appendages I didn't have. Then I clicked on an unexpected email. It was from Maureen James, the marriage and family counselor I'd referred my clients to. She was having trouble with a particular couple I'd counseled all last year and was wondering if I had any ideas. The husband showed up to the sessions but refused to actively participate, and the wife was now considering a separation. My heart sank. That couple loved each other and just needed help. The right help, which they obviously weren't getting from Maureen. Pushing my laptop away from me, I leaned back on my bed and stared at the ceiling. I knew exactly what to do for them. The husband had major rejection issues. If he felt attacked by his wife, even in the slightest way, he put up a wall and refused to look at his own actions. Once I'd figured this out, I made sure to start each session with each partner sharing reasons they loved their spouse. It put him in a safe place where he was able to be open to changes they could both make to improve their situation. I could help this couple, but only if I put myself out there again. I'd made mistakes and lost my confidence because I wasn't perfect. But maybe I didn't need to be. I picked up the magic 8-ball. Should I go back to counseling? After shaking it, the clear window read, "Without a doubt." Agreeing with my wise plastic ball, I reached under my pillow and pulled out the new lease. I signed it and faxed it in, then emailed Maureen to tell her I'd be available for the couple next week. As I hit send, a heavy weight lifted. I was back. We arrived at Folsom Lake a little before noon. I spotted Noah's boat docked alongside the launch. Rach, Ellen, and Henry were already on board. As Noah drove his truck away from the water to park it, our eyes met and a flitter of nerves rippled through me. "Happy birthday, Kristen!" Ginger had snuck up behind me, holding out a card. "Thanks." I opened the envelope, then gave her a hug. "How are you?" She shrugged. Who's perfect all the time? Not me. I wove my arm through hers, then stepped away from Gina and Chris, who were chatting as they waited for Noah. "I've been thinking about what you said earlier this week, Ginger. About whether women date men who are like their fathers." Ugh. She studied her feet as we walked. "We'd just met, and I shouldn't have unloaded on you like that. I'm actually glad you did." I stopped by the edge of the water and faced her. "You opened up to me, and I came off cold because I was having a bad day. Not my finest moment. Don't worry about it." She waved her hand dismissively. "We all have days like that. Actually, I think I had 4 months of that." I laughed, glad that I could finally joke about it. "If you'd like to talk more about your situation, I'd be happy to meet you for coffee when you have time." She blew out a breath. "I'd really like that." "Me too." I smiled, then we headed back to Gina and Chris. "Guys, I'll meet you at the boat, all right?" Gina glanced at where Noah was strolling toward us, and she threw me a knowing look. "Got it." I watched as she slipped her hand into Chris's, leading Ginger and him toward the wooden pier. Then I turned to face Noah. "Thanks for coming today." He smiled. "Someone had to bring the boat." I sucked in a breath. "I'm glad you're speaking to me. I don't deserve it, though. Rach told me about your scummy ex, the reason you broke up with him, and how he made you doubt yourself." Noah ran a hand through his hair. "That had to be hard." Surprisingly, the betrayal didn't sting like it used to. "It was, but I've moved on." "Good." He slung his arm around my shoulder, his blue eyes sparkling as he winked at me. "Then we can move on too. Let's go celebrate the start of your new decade." "Don't remind me," I laughed, squeezing Noah back, grateful he'd forgiven me. We headed toward the boat where all my friends were waiting. All except the one I wanted to see most. "I'll meet you in a sec. I need to make a phone call." I stopped at the edge of the dock, pulled out my phone, and got Ethan's voicemail. "Hey, I guess you're not there. I hope you come to my party today, but I understand if you don't. Anyway, talk to you later." As I stepped onto the pier, a pontoon boat roared toward me. I put my hand over my eyes to cut the sun's glare, then recognized Ethan behind the wheel. A woman stood next to him. My heart stopped. He'd brought a date to my party just like I'd told him to. Stupid, stupid me. My heart squeezed as Ethan's boat stopped alongside Noah's. I wanted to kick myself for telling Ethan to bring a date. Then I wanted to kick him for bringing one. I couldn't believe he'd brought Amanda to my party. Wait, that girl looked strangely similar to Dana. No, that was Dana. Tingles raced through me, and suddenly I found myself running toward Ethan. Every inch of my skin felt charged, and before I had time to think about what I was doing, I leapt into his arms. Luckily, he caught me. Holding him as tight as possible, I whispered, "You came."
I told you I'd save the date.
His lips brushed my ear, his voice low and gravelly.
Happy birthday, Kristen.
My heart melted, and I leaned back to gaze into his mocha-brown eyes. I renewed the lease for my practice. His brows furrowed.
Good, it's what you love.
You're right. I loosened my hold until my feet dropped to the floor, then I leaned into him. You were also right about how I feel about you. The corners of his mouth crept into a smile.
I knew you'd figure things out.
Tingles vibrated up my spine. Ethan, I want you to save all your dates for me. He gazed down at me with his simmering and intense look.
Already done, honey.
Good, I said, then pressed my mouth to his. Epilogue. Later that week, Ethan dropped by my office after work and hammered a nail into the wall for me. Then he hung up the framed certificate from the Sacramento History Museum's Adopt an Artifact program. I still can't believe you donated to conserve that hat in my name. I reached my arms around his neck and gazed up at him. That's way too expensive for a birthday gift. Tucking a piece of hair behind my ear, he said,
It was for a good cause.
I tilted my head. True, it's important to preserve history.
I meant seeing you smile.
He leaned down and brushed his lips against mine.
You ready to head out? Our dinner reservations are for 7.
Let me log off my computer first. I skipped over to my desk, moved my mouse across the computer screen, then clicked on a new email from Career Crush. I gasped. Dear Kristen Moore, thank you for participating in the Career Crush course. After careful evaluation, we have determined that you would be perfect in a career such as marriage and family counselor. We hope our class has led you to your dream job. Sincerely, the staff at Career Crush.
Everything okay over there?
Ethan's voice was laced with concern. Don't worry. I laughed, slipped my arms around my sweet and sexy boyfriend, then curled against his chest. Everything's perfect.
This has been The Safest Harbor, River City Sweethearts, written by Susan Hatler, narrated by Martha Lee. Copyright 2013 by Susan Hatler. Production copyright 2014 by Susan Hatler. Susan Hatler is a New York Times best-selling author of sweet, heartfelt romances filled with humor and emotion, as well as captivating young adult novels. Her books have charmed readers worldwide and have been translated from English into German, Italian, French, Spanish, Dutch, and Portuguese. A born optimist, Susan believes life is amazing, people are fascinating, and imagination is endless. She loves spending time with her unforgettable characters and hopes that you will too.